From North America in the north, 4 weeks ago, to South America down south. It is all the way from the US of A to Brazil. Welcome to round 4 of ASR's 2021 GT3 World Championship, powered by Antara Resort Style Living. And for the uneducated, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache is Interlagos in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And it's a return to the 90-minute format, which we used for the majority of last year's GT3 World Series. The longest distance that we race in any of the races this year. Last year, the longest distance was a 2-hour enduro event. It's been cut down to 90 with the mixed-up format that this year presents. And the last race here was about 2 years ago, if memory serves me correctly, and that man who was sort of getting close to winning that race, Steve Bolger, is in the field tonight and looking pretty handy at the moment. Some of the times he's been setting. Has he got an opportunity to seize another victory since the last time out in the World Series? Time will tell, but tonight your commentary team, you can see it there at the moment, actually reads myself, Steve DeVries, and Josh Bagsy Bags, but it is indeed Michael the Flatman Zalavari is here as well. But we'll say good evening first of all to Josh Bags.
Hey, evening, Heather. It's good to be back for Brazil. It's one of my favourite tracks, and back to the 90-minute format, which I'd argue we've been sorely missing. It's the format that throws up sometimes, I mean, maybe not sorely missing, but it is nice to go back to the 90-minute format and the battle of strategy, not just driver skill. You know, the combo of being able to, on the fly, work out what you need to do while also lapping quickly and dealing with pressure that the 90-minute format really brings to the table. So I'm looking forward to it, and really a classic track that I think everyone loves. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Brazil, and it's been the scene of many an F1 significant finale, which we've been sorely lacking as the final race of the F1 season lately. But we'll see if it turns out to be pivotal for the championship here.
Well, we certainly will. We look forward to seeing what this format can do. It's been a year since this format actually has been run. So a long time out of commission for, I guess, a few drivers, because in between the last time he ran 90 minutes, actually, which was, I think, at Monza, and this time, this year, we've had the sprint series in between. We've also had the introduction of the 70-minute intermediate format as well. So there is a little bit of reacclimatization for a number of these drivers to get used to with this longer distance format. 2 stops is looks set to be the order of the day tonight. And it'll be all about how the drivers can try and break this up, because there are the different BOP strengths and weaknesses this year with the cars. So some drivers might be just pushing it a little bit to try and make that 30-minute block work. And then they've got the one extra lap that they need to factor in as well.
Yeah, we have been seeing the different balance of power things come into the fore, especially in the realms of fuel consumption. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that gets handled today, because this is a track where there is even though you've got the very twisty middle sector, a lot of it is spent with your foot directly to the floor. So especially the run from the bottom of the hill all the way up to the first corner, you are entirely on the throttle. And if you let off early, you're going to be losing a significant amount of time to someone who's able to keep it flat chat throughout the whole race.
Someone who knows a lot about going flat chat is Michael the Floodman Zalavari, and he joins us now.
Yes, good evening. Sorry for running just a little bit behind, but it's great to be back. Especially after missing the last round, I've been hankering for some ASR action, and it's great to be back at Interlagos and doing the 90-minute format and all those things that Bagsy said as well. It is something that throws out a lot of interesting challenges, and I think there'll be plenty of interesting challenges tonight. And first and foremost, keeping the car underneath you, keeping the tires underneath you through that tight middle sector and getting the power down for those long straights. Exactly like you all said, you don't even need me. You've got everything covered already, it seems like.
We got it all covered up here at the moment, and what we will cover now is the key points of interest about how things have gone so far this season. So off to Google Earth we go, and round 1 is where we started. Home soil Victoria, Melbourne, Australia, Luke Rosella in the Porsche. He won both those races. He's doing some Scops pre-qual tonight, so we wish him all the very best. Then we took a journey off to Portugal. First ever trip to Estoril, and Greg Turra, his first ever ASR victory in any discipline he's contested, and he did it in fine style, debuting that win in the 70-minute format. Then off to Laguna Seca, where we've been before, and the wins were split. Curtis Agmanis, or Termo as he's affectionately known, with race 1. Greg Turra winning race number 2. Termo's first ever GT3 win, not to be outdone by he's had previous wins. And now tonight, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Sao Paulo, Brazil, more affectionately known, gentlemen, as Interlagos. And here we go. It's a 4.3k circuit, 13 proper corners, and there you can see about 50, mid-50 range in laps tonight. Bagsy, more commonly associated, as you mentioned, with Formula One, but we've had some cracking races here over the years in GT3.
Yeah, we definitely have, and it's a very fast-paced track. Although, because of the changes to the balance of power, we're not going to see, most likely, not going to see the highs, or rather the lows in terms of track times that we saw Lewis Wedding get in the 2019 edition. His McLaren GT, he was setting mid-129s. At the moment, the fastest time has been Greg Turra during the week with a 1 minute 30.9, so just in the 30s. And Steve Bolger has been the only other person to get into the 1 minute 30s, although it does depend on what timing screen you look at. In the game, the one we're looking at has him a 131 dead, but the live races at asrleague.liveraces.com has him at a 130.999. So I'm sure Bolger will say he's going to believe that one because that one makes him look better.
Yeah, spot on there, Bagsy. It's going to take a bit of effort to get to those track records, which were set, as you can see there, back in 2019, which was the last time we actually ran this circuit. And it was back when that was a 90-minute race as well. And Flood, looking from an endurance point of view, we've run this circuit about 2 or 3 times over the course of ASR's history. Real life, talk to us about endurance racing here in real life, because I don't believe there's a hell of a lot.
No, not currently. The Interlagos circuit was slated for a WEC round at the very beginning of 2020, but due to some problems with the promotion of the event and the production of the event and just the logistics of making it happen on the sort of the circuit side, it actually got pulled at the last minute for COTA. Well, not quite the last minute, but but it has had WEC competition before. Back in 2014, the last round of the series in 2014 was held at Interlagos, and that went the way of Porsche, their first victory in their return to LMP1, and that was after a very scary crash for Mark Webber coming up through the final sector where he made contact with a GTE AM Ferrari. It's always a GTE AM Ferrari coming through Subida dos Boxes and smashed the wall hard and basically broke the car in half. Very luckily, Webber was fine. He was extracted to an ambulance and taken to hospital, and he was without any injuries in the end. But a scary way for that race to end. That was the last time the WEC raced at Interlagos.
He was clearly trying to recreate 2003 F1 at Interlagos.
Yeah, everybody remembers that one, I think, as well. The very, very famous thing. That was a very big wet race as well, wasn't it? Where there was all sorts of things going on, cars going off left, right, and centre, and that big, I think, massive accident. I think very, very famously Webber pirouetting through, I think, coming off the final corner, and like very, very heavy debris and all that sort of stuff. It's that goes back a long way as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then I believe Alonso came along and hit his tyre and also demolished most of his car as well. And, but got Fisichella a podium after the fact because the red flag went back 2 laps.
Qualifying is getting underway here. 10 minutes on the clock has started, so already the Nissans are starting to head the field out of pit lane. So Tim Redmond in the number 43, who jumped in last minute at Laguna Seca, was right in the battle with Termo, who's behind him, and Lewis Wedding, and there was that coming together within a couple of laps from home in the in the second race at Interlagos. So Redmond out there looking to make amends. One of the very quick Kiwis that's jumped into ASR over the last year and a half, and has the Super 2 Summer Series title under his belt, flying the Kiwi Sim Sports flag very, very proudly. He's up into about third place in the supercar standings this year, if memory serves me correctly. He's doing a mighty fine job, and he also picked up the Mini Challenge title a little bit earlier this week in a fight with Lockie Lock. So good, actually big shout out to Lockie Lock as well. He did a fantastic job to push Tim all the way in that very short 8-round series that ran fortnightly on Tuesdays. And goes to prove that there's some good upcoming talent in ASR. The future is very, very bright, gentlemen.
Absolutely right, and it's been one of my favourite things to see as we've been doing this and various other commentaries in ASR, is seeing those names progress up the grid and start to become real world beaters as the first group of cars are making their way onto the last sector. We'll make reference to the sector markers just so that way you are aware of where we're talking about when we talk about the sector markers. First sector ends just before turn 4, the Descida de Largo, and then sector 2 is between turns 11 and 12, so between Nagulio and Yuncao. So you've got that really nice long run onto the main straight, which is your last sector, and your first sector is basically the center chicane and that run down Reta Oposta. So a lot of corners in the middle sector, but the first and last dominated definitely by speed.
The front straight is pretty much the last proper corner is the one you just mentioned, John South, and pretty much heading uphill. It's a very series of very easy left-handers as long as you've got the car on line. Sector 3 dominated by pretty much a big long blast to the start-finish line. And then Sector 1, apart from the Centre S, the run down the Costa to the Sector 1 split, literally over and done with in about 22 seconds. So there's not a lot of basically getting the centre S right. Here's the Sector 2 split now, and this is the one we call just a minute ago, the last proper corner, and then, as you said, there's just these series of, very, very gentle left-handers at high speed as well, but you've still got to pick the markers, you've still got to pick that line through that corner on the run to the start-finish line.
At the moment, it is Steve Bolger who has the fastest Sector 1 time. He's just hit the second sector mark at a 1:09. Tim Redmond's the first one to set a lap in anger at 31.1, and Termo slots in right behind him. Bolger has the fastest first sector mark, but Termo has the fastest second and third sector. So very, very close up the front. Bolger's just about to come across the line now to finish his first lap and put it at a 31.013. So that's the first real lap, first real benchmark that everyone's going to be chasing for the rest of this 6.5-minute session.
Yeah, we've got everyone out on the track as well now. Very short track, as mentioned earlier, under 5 kilometers, and there's not much space to set your fast lap. There's lots of people all bunched up. A few people, Glenn Miles for one, and Steve Bolger, provisional positive at the moment, getting themselves nice big gaps as Bolger goes even faster in Sector 1 at 22.1. That is absolutely lightning fast, and we've only got 12 thousandths of a second between Redmond and Termo as well for second and third.
We'll keep an eye on Steve Bolger through the middle sector. One couple of drivers still yet to set some times. The next one of those is going to be Steve Warwick on your screen now, who actually prefers this type of machinery, and I think that the Bentley Continental might not be too bad a car to have tonight, although he's picked up a track cut, and that one looks like he had that in the first sector. So if you can put it together, the Bentleys have some pace. I mean, they've been seeing the race pace, the Bentleys being about the 132s, which is actually pretty reasonable, and might be a fairly handy bit of kit to have, depending if some of the other drivers run into some trouble during the night. Steve Bolger, PB in Sector 2 that time, so has reset the purple sector marker for Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2, and to the line, and he lost some time. Does not improve, yeah. So he lost time through out of the exit and of Junsao, and was hurt all the way on the run to the start-finish line. So just goes to show you that last proper corner, very, very, very important.
So in comparison, go ahead.
I was just about to say, I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to the fact that halfway through this session, the top 6 cars are separated by less than 4/10. It's very congested at the top half of the qualifying grid at the moment. Bagsy?
In terms of the sectors, we're seeing Steve Bolger. He's already gone through the first sector marker. He set another purple sector. He might get into the 21s for that first sector. He's absolutely nailing it. I'm wondering about the difference in setups between Bolger and Turmo, because Turmo has been consistently 4 or 5 tenths slower than Bolger in the first sector, but then he's been 4 or 5 tenths faster in this middle sector. So I'm wondering if Turmo's gone for a much more point and squirt car, get the thing going in this middle sector, and he's just sacrificing a little bit on the straights potentially. That being said, when we're looking at the best times, Turmo actually has a higher top speed. So I'm wondering if it's just that GTR. Oh, as Bolger goes very wide, and he's back in the pits. I'm wondering if the way Turmo set up his car has been a bit more kind on the, less kind in the middle sector, but faster.
Well, I wonder if Turmo's, because of that, Turmo's actually getting out of Jung Chao a bit better, because he actually holds the fastest last sector time as well, and that's effectively flat out. So I wonder if he's actually got the turning of the car hooked up really nicely, and he's just maybe made a mistake in that first sector, or just hasn't got a handle on the center S's. At the moment, Turmo sits in third place, a whole 0.152 away from the pole, and he's just starting another lap right now.
Yeah, he's just crossed the line now through the centre S, and you can see here, there it is, big lock-up as you called it. So big mistake, just overcommitment into the opening couple of corners. I'm wondering, guys, whether or not he's maybe trimmed a little bit of wing out of that car. Maybe that's why he's so quick out of Jun South. He hooks the exit up really well. He's doing a very, very nice time, but then that would explain the purple second sector, which is the tight and twisty sector where you need the downforce.
The GTR is a very good car for the tight, twisty point and shoot sections, and it's just a very good car all round, because it does have the ability, if you tune it right, to really stretch its legs as well. So I'm wondering if it could just be down to the way the BOP is, and it's just that little bit better. But
we've got a brand new top time. Sorry, Bagsy, brand new top time. Damon Woods, a 1:30.6, blows everyone out of the water by 4/10 of a second.
That's the fastest time we've seen from anyone by a good 3/10 of a second throughout the whole week so far.
And he's done the best middle sector and the best final sector, so he's got that car hooked up everywhere. What a lap!
And that's come out of nowhere too. That's with not much time left on the clock as well, and he's gone back to the shed. So if anyone's going to beat it, they've got to be on track to beat it now, and everybody is out there aside from the current provisional pole sitter, Glenn Miles and Brian Walsh. So there's still 11 cars on track that can improve their time, but they've got a minute and a half to do it.
Turmo crossed the line with 1 minute and 32 seconds left on the clock, so there is the potential, if Turmo's fueled for it, to go for 2 more flying laps. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes, but he's also got someone coming out of the pits just in front of him who's probably keen to get another lap in, but I don't think they will if they're following him round.
Yeah, that's Brendan Ross. Steve Bolger with a PB through Sector 1. He was up not only on his own time, but he was up on the pole time as well at Sector 1. So this is the next time we really need to pay some close attention to. Now, he is also going to get another flying lap if he's fueled for it. So drivers that were pretty much already halfway through Sector 1 should get another bite at the cherry if they butcher the first one. And Bolger's up. Oh, he's up not by very much though on the pole time, but look, the slide. That's the big issue for him. He had a big slide, overcommitted coming through Junsao, and again, this might hurt him on the run up to the start-finish line. He was 3/10 up on his own time as Greg Turris slots into P2. So this could be important for Bolger, even if he made the mistake. He can't wrestle back. He wrestles back P2, and he gets to go again.
It was 0.02 of a second in the middle sector, but that last sector went the other way. A full 1/10 of a second that Bolger lost in that last sector.
PB in all sectors as well.
To the line.
Turmo got a track cut, so he had to go again, and he just got across the line to get another run at the cherry.
Did as well.
And through the go, Turmo's had a mistake. Bolger's blown his last attempt, and so too has Turmo. So big news already. big shake-up at the top of the order. Greg Turret gets another lap as well. Can he go one better and snatch back a front row berth? What does his first sector look like? It was a PB. Tim Redmond's also had a pretty decent couple of sectors as well, and he's got one more lap to go, but he's pitting, so he's done.
Steve Warwick's also given up on his lap. Ujrit Mishra is coming up to the line now. He's currently in 10th. His next person is Nathan Higginson, 3/10 ahead. He's not able to improve.
Greg needs a good exit here out of Junsao to make any impression on the front row. He's probably a bit too far away for the pole time, but he might be able to snatch back second place if he can find a couple of tenths. But it's a very, very tall mountain to climb, and no, he aborts. So he is done as well. So, wow, off the top of that, it's going to be a Damon Woods pole. So he actually got pole position last night on debut in Super 2, and he's done it again on debut in GT3 tonight. Brendan Ross with some lawn mowing off the...
He's just through the track cut as well for running wide through Magilio. So that will be it. That will be the end of the session.
That will be the end of the session. Just a couple of cars out there on the track at the moment coming into the pits. So Brendan Ross is one. Lewis Wedding here is another. Went along quietly about his business, Lewis Wedding. 131.7 in the competition motorsports. Porsche is a pretty decent effort. The car is down from what we hear on ultimate straight line speed, so there is a little
incredibly so.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of testing yet to go on to resolve some of that. So he'll bring that car back to pit lane, and we will then go to a very short little holding pattern while we sort out a couple of things for this one. But gentlemen, that's a cracking qualifying session yet again, and 56 thousandths in it at the end of the day.
Oh, you love to see it, don't you?
And Dame Woods, who's come in, and he in the server set a time yesterday that was a 1:32.4, so basically 2 seconds slower in the Porsche. So it seems like he's decided the Mercedes is where he wants to stake his claim, and it's worked very well for him because he has sort of come from nowhere, really. I don't think anyone was expecting a time that quick and that sudden from him.
Yeah, that was the thing. He was in 5th in the first half of the session. So it was back when Steve Bolger was at the head of the field with that 31.0. He was only a tenth or two away, and I was just kind of tracking his laps, and he'd had a few good laps and then made a single mistake, or had another good lap and then it was just a bit out of shape in one corner. So I think once he finally got it all hooked up, he really showed what he can do. And I found it interesting that when he did have it hooked up, he went straight to the inside coming across the main straight to really sort of shorten that distance to the line, and it worked out beautifully for him to eclipse everyone initially by 4 tenths. It blew everyone out of the water. In the end, Bolger was the only one to get anywhere sort of close towards him.
Well, Steve Bolger has a bit of history, I think, and a little bit of unfinished business with this track, gentlemen. Remember back in 2019, that was sort of like the first indications that we got that he was starting to be a bit of an up-and-coming force in GT3 in ASR. He had, I think it was a pretty decent spirited battle for one of the last spots on the podium, and ultimately didn't go his way. But then the next year, World Series, bang, 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 dominated. Came out with the title on it. So this track, I think, is Steve Bolger. I think Steve Bolger's the dark horse tonight.
Call him a dark horse when he's starting on the outside of the front row.
Well, I mean, the Ferrari, again, this is the issue that a lot of people haven't sort of really worked out. The differences in how everything goes with the BOP this year, because BOP has changed the dynamics overall for GT3. Back in those 2019 days, the balance was very, very different compared to this year. There was a lot of cars that had different tyres that were running, essentially that were the same sort of car. They were front-engined or mid-engined or whatever case may be. And the differences were too far and large to ignore. So what the ASR team has done is they've gone and had a good look at what has needed to be changed and tried to balance everything up as best as possible. And that's starting to deliver some of these things that we're starting to see now, these really close qualifying sessions, the finishes like we had at Laguna Seca last time out, Bagsy. Both races where it pretty much went down to the wire. You know, cars that get out in front and can sprint early have to conserve a little bit later, and it really brings about some fantastic racing.
It really does. It brings it alive, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes in the long term, the long format race, because we haven't. This is the first time to see this BOP in a long distance race, and it could really mix up the pit strategy in ways that we're probably not ready to go for.
No, I think you're probably right. And instead of mixing, on the subject of mixing up things, let's bring up the driver standings here, Flood. Now you missed out on last round, but I'm sure you've had a chance to catch up.
I'll be honest, I haven't. It's been a very busy few months for me, and part of that has been a little bit of a mental health dip. So that's why I wasn't with you guys last round. But I can see that Termo must have had a good result because he's rocketed up the standings, and Bolger is sitting nice and pretty in third.
He is indeed. Now, coming into the Laguna Seca round, that margin at the top was actually only 2 points between Greg Tara and Termo. And Termo did get the chocolates in race 1 at Laguna Seca and was equal on points up the top there with Greg for a bit, but then had a little bit of an issue in race 2 where he spun out and consequently dropped a number of points. So the margin's still very tight at the top at just 9 points, and Steve Bolger has the only other driver to exceed the 100-point barrier up into third place. And a number of these drivers are not here tonight as well, and got a couple of good results on their cards as well, so it's good to see. But who's the out of this one, Bagsy? Who's the person on this list that you're most surprised with at the moment?
I'd say Lewis Wedding, just because it's not surprising that he's had some bad luck, but it sort of is still, because we know that he's better than the position he's in, and he's every chance to come back into this later on if other people also run into some bad luck. But Termo being up there is probably the bigger surprise. He's done so well to improve his driving from where it was, and his consistency, most importantly, which is the thing that we always harp on about as the biggest thing in this format, is that being here week in, week out, or rather month in, month out, and actually finishing the race is the biggest thing, because it gets you those points and it keeps you in it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this could be probably one of Termo's best starts to a season, not just in GT3, but one of the best starts to the season he's had in some time. What about you, Flood? Who's got your eye at the moment?
For me, it's the names that are missing tonight. Luke Rosella, Mitch McGovern, which is Lime Mitch. It's a shame that they've not been able to join us again for this evening's racing. It's great to see the Turas really come to the fore. They've been knocking on the door for quite a number of seasons. Quite a number of races, and Turmoil as well. I'll add him to that. It's a real kind of changing of the guard in this series as it's gone so far. So it's really exciting to see these new names at the very head of the field. As far as who should be further up, Lewis Wedding is of course one that sticks out. But otherwise, considering who has entered into this series, it doesn't. There's not really too many surprises. Looking at it at the moment, just the absence of Rosella and Lime Mitch really kind of puts a mute on their title chances, and I'd love to see them really mix it with the Taras and with Termo to really show how much these guys have improved.
I agree. That's a pretty fair assumption. For me, it's the newcomer, Steve Warwick. So smack bang right in the middle of the order there in 7th place, 65 points. Has had a good handful of top 10 finishes over the 3 rounds so far. Remember, we've had 5 races. We've had 2 sets of sprint rounds, 2 races a night each. We've had the 70-minute distance at Estoril. And apart from, I think Estoril was probably the low point, but Steve Warwick has acclimatized to these cars fairly well, and actually, believe it or not, I think he actually prefers these cars. So for me, I like seeing him just sort of go about his business. He doesn't drive as quickly as a lot of the other guys, but he drives sensibly and he drives smartly. And he's been rewarded there by finishing ahead of some drivers that have been in the series for quite a while. So the likes of Higo, who has been around a bit longer, Scott Murrell, who's very, very experienced, and he's just come into the series again, and a number of drivers there that have missed a couple of rounds as well. But very, very solidly, Steve Warwick been going along, picking up points all the way along, and I think that come the end of the year, or end of the season rather, I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe, 6th or maybe even 5th place, just depending on how frequently the likes of Rosella and McGovern turn up.
Yeah, he's certainly been someone who's taken to these cars like a duck to water. Steve Warwick is a name that you might be familiar with if you've been watching some of the ASC rounds, which our good friends over at Apex Rear Wing broadcast. So a quick shout out to them. So he certainly knows how to steer a car. He's just not quite as... Let me try that sentence again. I did not expect him to be quite as competitive as he has been.
And on top of that, he's doing a lot of driving as well. So not just the ASC cars, he's doing Super 2 and Supercars here in ASR as well as GT3. And he jumps into, I think he's even doing some of the RF2 series that we've been running as well. So just plenty of seat time, enjoying what he does. And just one of those guys, I think, that everybody sort of, likes to hang around with. He's like an old uncle that everybody loves and you can never hate. I think that's always happy to see him around. That's the kind of feeling I get whenever Steve's in the room. It's just a very, very pleasant experience in the chat, and he loves a laugh as well. So he's a good character. He's a good character.
Who doesn't love a laugh? I gotta say, in the time that I've been dropping in and out of the servers and kind of bantering around, it's the community that we've got here at ASR is actually really, really good fun one. On its good days, it's one of the best places to be, especially when you can give people shit for beating them with a controller, which is always a great laugh for me.
Now I know that happened in the the practice session a little bit earlier. I think you and was it Glenn Miles were having a bit of a spirited battle. So.
And I'll let people know that I was in the Porsche as well, which is absolutely terrible going down this long straight.
Well, the driver's briefing is just being conducted at the moment, so we've probably got a little bit of time left. But coming up, there's quite a fair bit of activity still to go. So what we'll do is we might actually bring the graphic up here so you can actually see how this is all going. We'll turn the audio off so you can hear us talk. So there's your Supercars Championship. You can see that there's still a fair way to go in that race or that series as well. Super 2 is very much the same. There's latest round was last night actually, Hidden Valley, 25th of June. There it is. So 5 rounds in, 5 rounds to go. A lot of fun going on that series and a very tight series as well. Most of the series this year surprisingly tight. This is coming up, guys. So there'll be some announcements a little bit later on, hopefully the next couple of weeks. The Supercars Enduro Cup. We're putting a little something together for that on the success of last year's Bathurst 500. So another season of endurance is going to be upon us. There's your GT3 World Championship calendar as it stands. We're still a long way to go. Look at that beautiful list of circuits still to come along throughout the remainder of the year. And then a couple of series that have only just started to finish or just finished up. We mentioned the mini challenge. That finished up a couple of nights ago. So Tim Redmond is in the field tonight getting the chocolates over Lockie Lock. That was a good little fun series. And then the other one that's got a round to go, and you can see it there. It's got the Formula 3 series. That one has finished up recently on the 4th of May. The other one that goes along with that in terms of open wheelers is the FT50s, which I believe is the next one on the slide graphic, and indeed it is, and you can see there 2 tracks to go, Pukekohe and Bathurst on Tuesday night, and then that series will be over. And there's a couple of new Tuesday night social series to come along and replace those series when everything happens, I think, from the end of July onwards. So there's a lot going on here, guys.
Yeah, it's an absolute smorgasbord. Almost anything you could ever ask for, you've got. Pretty great.
can let out to the rest of the field as well too. The first of the social night series that's going to be coming back is something we haven't done for a while, and that's the ARCs, or the Aussie Racing Cars, is going to turn up. So that'll be the next Tuesday night social series. It's going to sort of start toward the end of July, and that'll probably run through toward the end of the year on the Tuesday night social time slot. The alternating fortnight, we're not 100% sure what is going to be run just yet, but I believe they're looking at something in the R Factor 2 engine just to see what's around, because it's been a bit of a success just seeing how R Factor 2 goes and what actually will happen after everything gets going on. So that'll be good to see what the guys from ASR cook up next.
I vote for P2 cars if we're doing R Factor. Unsurprisingly, of course.
It is nice to see how much variety there is. There really is something for everyone. If you have a type of car you want to race, there's a good chance that there'll be a series for it.
And if you have a type of format you want to race as well, there's a good chance there'll be a series for it. Like, we've got the endurance stuff here, you've got our supercars stuff, it even got a supercars endurance series, and then we've got the more sprint formats and even the fun stuff. So it's a really good job by the admins to give everyone the variety to pick and choose what suits them and suits their driving style and their driving desires.
On top of that as well, there's actually been a bit of an influx. A few of the guys were a bit perplexed. We were looking at our phones this morning, and we were wondering what was going on. I think everybody got, it was like, I think Rody sort of remarked at the best, it was like the admin version of whack-a-mole, if you've ever been to the Royal Melbourne Show or any of those things where you have to get a hammer out and just bonk a mole on the head. That's the direction it was going. I think we've counted something like 16 or 17 new members just inside the last 24 hours alone. So we're not sure where they've all come from. If any of you are watching along, good to have you aboard, and thank you for choosing ASR as a new sim racing community, I guess, to be a part of. We would definitely like to see some more of you out there, some more participation, bigger grid numbers. It's definitely a growing community. I think the Facebook group's got something like 920 odd members now, and as I said, about 17 of them have just popped up in the last 24 hours, which is almost unheard of.
That's some pretty big growth in a very short amount of time. I wonder where that has come from, but that's really encouraging to see.
We were trying to work this out. We were trying to work out whether another league had collapsed and a few guys were looking for another league, or in my case, I think the Facebook group sort of has been rotated to the top of a suggested groups list. If you ever got Facebook out on your phone, you can often see groups that pages you like, or groups that you're a member of. If other groups pop up that are of a similar nature or a similar type of group to the ones you're with, then they probably tend to turn up, and you can then say, oh, this has been suggested for you to join, and in some cases people go, yes, I would like to join that, and then they decide they want to, and they click on the link, and then they've joined the group. So that's my stance on the issue. I think that's how it's all come about.
Worked out.
By the way,
nice.
It's good to have some fresh blood, and yeah, hopefully start to see some new names popping up for some of these series.
Yeah, plenty going on, and some good new names coming into the series, and like I said, we definitely like to see a few more. And we're just in a bit of a holding pattern. So there's a few guys out there having some practice. There's mainly the Taras, so Greg and Noah Tara both setting a couple of times. And I'm wondering if there's anybody else out there. I think it might be just the two of them. Yeah, it is, and I think there's even a little bit of pit stop practice going on at the moment. Here's your pole sitter. Damon Woods is just touring the lane and doing a bit of pit stop practice, which is always good for your first race.
And
Yeah,
especially at a track like here, sorry, Bagsy, with such a fast pit entry, it's something you definitely want to make sure that you get right, and with such a difficult pit out as well.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was going to say. All I have down to that is that it's the fact that you're going to be pitting at least twice as well, potentially 3 times, depending on how thirsty your driving is. So it's something that you definitely don't want to be practicing for the first time at full racing speed.
Certainly, and fuel might be a consideration here. As we mentioned at the very top of the show, you are on full throttle for a lot of the lap, and it really will be a taxing race for the fuel guzzling machines to just try and make sure that they can stretch their stints out enough, maybe to stop only twice. Although depending on if we see a safety car, when we see a safety car, we are running tonight, by the way, without our usual manual safety car operators. We are running with the Virgin Razor safety car as the game intended. So that could cause chaos if it happens at the wrong time. Fingers crossed it doesn't, but normally the safety car and the stock Razor tracks are pretty good. So we'll see how that plays out.
Usually the stock Razor safety cars for the Razor tracks are pretty good anyway, and I think that's the reason why it's gone that way tonight. Just it gives an opportunity for a couple of guys to have a good race and see how they all go, and good testing as well. I think Brendan Ross is out there doing a bit of testing in the Porsche just to try and back up a couple of suggested improvements that Lewis Wedding has put on board.
Looks like time has expired on warm-up, so we'll probably be heading to the race very, very soon.
Yeah, a couple of late-minute pit stop things. Oh, that's the... just seen Nathan Higginson give the fence a little bit of a rub on the way out of pit lane. And
a closed pit lane.
A closed pit lane. It is closed, here you go. So there wasn't a need to go back out. And that little signal there showing that he is vanishing off the circuit usually means that we are about to go into the race session. So last few bits and pieces of details being sorted. And here we go. We are indeed getting ready to start the first of the 90-minute races for the year. So it's been a while, as we said, 12 months it has been since the 90-minute format was run. So acclimatization to this format is probably going to take, I think, the better part of, what do you say, guys? I'd say it's going to take probably at least the first, sort of 5 to 10 laps for drivers to really settle in and find that groove. And but they probably need to do it a little bit earlier than that. They really need to get settled in ASAP and find that rhythm, because that then dictates what happens for the rest of the race.
Yeah, certainly if they need to be saving fuel early, you want to know that, and you want to know that early so you can make that driving style adjustment. I don't think it'll be too much of an issue in terms of settling into the strategy, because it's a pretty bog standard pit as close to half an hour as you can. But a safety car could certainly throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Bagsy?
Yes, here we go for the start of the Interlagos race. Pole position, Damon Woods came out of nowhere really for this pole position. A very, very good lap. Can he back it up with a consistent race and hold on to that number 1 position? Probably everyone's favourite for tonight, Steve Bolger. He will be looking for a win here to try and regain the championship lead. Greg Tara in 3rd. He was the person with the fastest lap on the track this week until the qualifying session, where he could only manage 3rd on the grid. Tim Redmond in 4th. He was the early fast man as well. As we see Wedding having quite the moment out there. 5th place, Termo. He had a very good lap, and he is the 2nd GTR in the field. Noah Turra, his BMW, starts from 6th. Steve Warwick in the Bentley starts in 7th. Lewis Wedding, who we saw have that moment before in his Porsche, which is very down straight line speed. We'll see if he's able to do anything in these midfield sections, or if he just gets blasted past for the whole race. Starts in 8th. Nathan Higginson starts in 9th. Ujit Mishra in his Lamborghini starts in 10th. Taipan in the GTR. We've got lots of GTRs tonight, starting in 11th. Brendan Ross in 12th place. Glenn Miles in the final GTR starts in 13th. Correction, Glenn Miles is the 2nd last GTR in 13th. Ryan Rolsh is the final GTR in 14th. And Zach Brown brings up the rear in 15th place.
Looks like we lost one driver in amongst the between the quali and the race. Looks like Pierre Roy's had some dramas. He was in the server for a bit, didn't set a quali lap, and he looks like he's had some dramas. So he's actually having storm. We've actually just seen it in the chat that there was a little bit of lag going on in the practice session for Pierre Roy. So commiserations. He will watch this one, no doubt, from his home in Canada for as long as he can before the storm wipes out something else going on over there. And we'll watch this grid form up on the run to the start-finish line for 90 minutes. So safety car is heading for the pit lane, and Damon Woods has control of this field. So he's just got to wait for the green flag to drop and for the counter to start counting down. Now they're entering the acceleration zone now, which shouldn't be too long before the safety car is clear and gives the green light, and he is a little bit early there, so that's all okay. There is a couple of penalties that will need to be cleared, and as it stands right now, they're coming to the line 2 by 2, just like Noah's Ark, and away we go for the 90 minutes of Interlagos.
Oh. And Bolger got a shocker. He's immediately under pressure from Turmo as they go down. Oh, sorry, that's Tim Redmond into the center chicane. But Damon Woods is cleaned out the front. He's got already 3 or 4 car lengths over the rest of the field. Bolger's managed to slot back in second. He's backed everyone else up. Then it's Tim Redmond, Greg Taro, Turmo, Noah Taro, Steve Warwick, and Lewis Wedding.
Turmo's still trying to get some heat into those tyres there, weaving a bit back and forth as they come down through the first sector, and there's a perfect start there for Woods. He is going to be very happy with that, as we've got a GTR going wide in the background. I believe that is Glenn Miles there.
Yes.
As they continue up through the second sector, up the hill, and Bolger has, after that poor start, managed to hold on to second place.
Yeah, he's just held on ahead of Tim Redmond, and Greg Tara has gone back 1 spot. So Redmond's gained 1 and Greg Tara has lost 1 in the early going here. These guys are probably, again, as we said, they've got to find a way to settle into this groove. Damon Woods is going to pull away and blast away out in front. He's already got a nearly 1 second lead after the first sector. And you can see them going all the way up to the final corner, and that gap is now blown out to 1.7. So Damon's putting the hammer down, and the hammer down early, and maybe we might see a different type of strategy. Go hard or go home out the front, and maybe a bit more measured approach from the seasoned veterans as they complete lap 1.
It'll be the first time we get to see the straight line speed of these cars against each other, and it looks like Greg Tara is planning on using his straight line speed potentially to get past Redmond, and he has quite well done in that BMW. So BMW maybe with a bit more legs than the GTR down the main straight.
Good overall package, I think, the BMW. It has got a pretty decent set of boots underneath it. It's got a pretty decent engine under there, the M6 as well. Has a reasonably good straight line speed, probably would have been draft assisted as well, and has good mid-corner pace. So I think it's probably a good overall package to have. And there's a little bit of a battle for mid 4, yes.
Yeah, Noah Tara going past Turmo, but then running wide, and now they're side by side, and he ducks back in behind and decides to wait. So that BMW definitely very slippery in a straight line, and it'll be interesting to see how they go for the length of this race, if that's going to cost them on fuel.
Good opportunity to have a look at that one on the replay here. So this is exactly what you're referring to, Bagsy. So the dive from Noah Tara, and then he was wide at the next corner, and then Turmo with the cutback underneath him and managed to hang on to the place.
Damon Woods, sorry, 3 seconds ahead, and we're not even through the second lap.
I've just got my eyes now on Greg Taro again, because something I noticed last lap, it wasn't necessarily the straight line speed that got the pass, but it was the drive through power and the exit speed. That's what really propelled him down that straight. So he's got that BMW hooked up to that last corner, and he's stalking Steve Bolger down the main straight once again. So they go towards the first corner. Bolger takes the defensive line. Taro goes high and wide, gets collected by Tim Redmond, who then gets collected by Turmos. There's 2 or 3 cars there who've been spun out. It was unfortunate that Taro was looking to try and wrap around Bolger, and Redmond just kind of broke himself into a corner there.
Yeah, worthy of a look on the replay for that one as well, because we were on board and we saw the moment when the hit came, and it probably was a little bit of a late braking manoeuvre. So here it is from the proper angles. You can see how it all happened. So round the outside there, and just a little bit too late on the brakes, and then Redmond got one for good measure from Turmo, having been on the side of the track there, and they both come out of that one losing places. So Tara loses a couple of spots. Tim Redmond doesn't gain any, most importantly, so that's the important part of the equation. So redress has been done, but
small sympathy for Greg Tara, because that's gone from him probably going to take second place there going down the Red River Imposter, but instead now he's back in fifth. No, that's Noato. He's back in 7th place, and so he has it all to do now just to get even close to Steve Bolger. He'll be absolutely filthy.
But that's okay though. It's a 90-minute race. He's got the time to get into a rhythm and sort himself out, and he's got the pace, and we can see that. Someone else who's got the pace at the moment, Damon Woods, now 4 seconds ahead of the field. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2, fastest lap of the race of 31.5. How is that for some cracking pace in the first few laps?
That's qualifying pace at the moment from Damon Woods. That's you know, fast lap after fast lap. That's heaters, as they would call it. And he's leaving these guys for dead at the moment. So Bolger's got a bit of a reprieve now, being in second place. Termo's been elevated to third, dragging along Steve Warwick, Noah Turra and Lewis Wedding. Have a look at them in the background lining up here. There's a little bit of a move here going on. So Noah Turra's going to get the job done here on Steve Warwick, and he left the door open for a little bit too long, and Lewis Wedding wanted to stick his nose in there, but he wasn't far enough up to really wrestle that spot away. But one BMW gets involved in an incident not of its doing, and the other one makes another spot. So Turra of the Noah variety looking pretty racy at the moment in the early going.
And Greg is just off the back of that group as well.
Yes,
It's a very lively little pack. And it was actually Termo holding them up for a little while. Once he finally got onto the straight, he was able to spread his stretch his legs and open up a little bit of a gap. It was helped by Turra making that move. And now Warwick's coming under pressure from Lewis Wedding as well as they come through the latter parts of Sector 2.
Whatever tactical tinkering the Turras have been doing, it's working for them in those BMWs today.
Oh, Bagsy, that was glorious.
That was very, very good, Bagsy. Speaking of BMWs, the third one in the field belongs to Nathan Higginson. He's got his hands full with Tim Redmond here as well, who's recovering after putting the accidental punt, I guess we can call it, on Greg Turra. And Higginson a little bit wide of the optimal line in a couple of spots here, but he's giving that GTR a nice little toe down the front straight here on the run to turn 1. But this time, Redmond is well clear. No risk of running into the back of the BMW a second time.
I'm just going to request a replay, Nether, of Greg Turra going through the first part of the centre chicane, because he was very close to the rear of Lewis Wedding and then had the full thing on opposite lock with the rears locked, trying not to plough into the back of the Porsche. So I reckon that one is something deserving of another look.
Here we go, and you're up to the spot on. Look at that. How's that for a slide? Perfect timing. He was just had it all locked up and fistful opposite lock. Calm as you like, picks it up and presses on. But you're right, look at the margin that he lost as a result of that. He was right on the boot lid of the Porsche, and now he's some about half a dozen car lengths back.
And something that has happened while we've been watching that replay is that Steve Warwick has also been passed by Lewis Wedding now. So Wedding's forced his way through into 5th.
Yeah, there he is. So you can see that there. There goes Wedding, and he's kicking away now. So got that pass done, and even cut the margin down a little bit to Noah Turra a bit further up the field, and actually put a little bit of an advantage on Steve Warwick once he cleared him quite quickly as well.
I think Noah Turra might be thinking of a move on Termo going into the first corner here. He's closing in quite rapidly. He decides not to go for the dive, but he's definitely going to be in a good position coming after the centre chicane.
Great lap from Noah Turra, by the way. A 32 flat, second fastest car in the field at the moment, and the fastest one is the man out front, Damon Woods, the only one in the 31s. But Noah's looking racing now. He comes to the inside down the Reto Pozza and makes his way through to take third place.
Better pass that time around, didn't run over the backside of the curb and hand the place back to Termo like he did a couple of laps ago. This time he's able to consolidate quite well.
Despite the fact that these two are battling, both set faster lap times the last lap than Steve Bolger, so they're both still gaining in. Bolger sort of struggling for pace a little bit at the moment. I wonder if he is conserving fuel at this point, because the gap to Damon Woods is really skyrocketing, is probably the best term for it. 1.3 seconds on that last lap, the difference between Bolger and Woods in second and first respectively. So I'm wondering if there's a bit of tactics being played.
Yeah, I'd like to expand on that point, but something that we have just missed is Lewis Wedding and Steve Warwick are now down in 10th and 11th spots. Just caught a quick replay myself of the pair coming through turn 4, and it was actually Warwick who cleaned up the rear of the Porsche and then dropped down to rescind position. So that now puts our early race pace setter Greg Turra back into 5th place behind Turmo. And in the midst of that as well, we've got Damon Woods setting another brand new fastest lap of 31.3 at the head of the field.
Actually, I think we're going to have to get you to do your usual thing here. We have to get you to dive into the strategy books and try and work out what's happening here with the Damon Woods Mercedes-Benz, the WM Waste car, which we've seen that car in plenty of racing over the years in that livery. The 8A car. I think, when was the last time we saw this car? I think it was Bathurst 12 Hour, somewhere along the line.
That's I think where all the guest cars have come from.
Yeah,
Bathurst
pretty
12
much,
Hour
yes.
In 2018, if I recall correctly.
There you go, floody on it like he always is. Bagsy, I think we'll have to get you to look at the strategy books here and try and work out from a tyre and fuel point of view when Damon Woods might be expecting to come in, because this pace that he's setting is a hot pace, and there's not only is there purple sectors in all of this, there's PBs on sectors 1 and 2 on this lap alone. So he's not leaving anything to chance here. He's building up a big margin and at a big rate of knots. And I'm wondering whether or not there's either a fuel penalty to be paid here or not. But the front engine cars have got a lot going for them at a circuit like this.
Yeah, well, is it which I've already forgotten which cars used more fuel, if it was the front engine or the rear engine or the mid engine ones. I think it the front engine cars used more fuel overall, have a bit more power.
Yeah, I think the front engine cars have definitely got a little bit more going for them, and the rear end, the mid engine ones like the Porsche have a little bit less, but have a bit more making up in the corners. So there is a bit of a balancing act that has to be played out here, and the
thing is though, like at his current pace, it doesn't really matter if he has to make an extra stop, because he's going to have that in hand quite easily at his current rate of knots. He's going to be, we're only 12 minutes in, he's about 10 seconds ahead. If he can maintain this decent pace, then, and he'll probably take tyres at the stop, I think by the time he takes an extra stop near the end for a splash and dash, he'll be well ahead and able to do that.
Yeah, it might be a fair point at this rate if he keeps going the margin out to 9.5 seconds.
I will say, as Steve Bolger is coming under pressure from Noah Tara, it seems like Bolger has been lifting and coasting fairly significantly at the end of the straight, the main straight. So I think this is going to be Noah Tara breezing past him fairly quickly, but later on in the race it might be Noah Tara having extra stop and being passed by Bolger, and Bolger's waving as he rolls on by with his extra fuel.
And we have seen Bolger be the fuel whisperer before. We were talking about the last time the 90-minute format was used. That was at Monza, and that was one of Bolger's greatest victories as he gets wrapped up by Noah Tara quite convincingly.
Look how much earlier he let off there and just let him slide on by. It's fuel saving if I ever saw something.
Yeah, it's a long game, I think. The Ferrari, we saw even at the 30-minute races that we've seen, not so much at Laguna Seca, but at Melbourne especially, a number of the drivers needed to pit for fuel within sight of the finish line. Bolger was one of them. Leonard Grossel was another one. There was plenty of drivers that needed to come in for that splash and dash, because again, that was one of those circuits where you spend a lot of time on the power. So by Bolger maybe just trying to make sure he gets to beyond the 30-minute stint window, which is nearly halfway through at the moment. Very, very critical to try and make it work in the back end of the race. If you can go even longer than the 30-minute stuff, you start to buy yourself that insurance policy that you need when you get to the time plus one lap. And we're, of course, working this out to be around the 56 to 59 lap mark. So you can do your math and work that out pretty easily, that you need to sort of be doing about 18 or so, or 19 laps even on a stint. And right now we're about to complete lap 9. So about you can see the math just on the side there, 15 minutes and so gone. About 19 laps is where it needs to be to make this strategy work.
And the interesting thing is that in those 8 completed laps that we have, sorry, 9 completed laps, I'll get there eventually, the gap is now over 11 seconds. So Damon might be the rabbit here, or the hare, and the chasing group, Taro, Bolger, and Turmo, they might be the tortoises here. We will find out over the course of the next hour and 15 minutes, of course. But it looks like having someone to chase has reinvigorated Bolger, because he's certainly not letting Noah get away. The pass was made quite easily, but it's not been stretched to great effect since then. Bolger's really sort of tacked onto the rear of the BMW and is using it maybe as a bit of a guide to at what pace he needs to sit at. Or maybe he's just sitting in the slipstream and taking the extra fuel where he can get it. It's very interesting stuff.
Here he is now, just following him through the middle part of the circle, through to Interlagos and up to I like to call it the Duck's Head, because that's what it looks like when you're looking at a map, when you're looking at top down from this circle. It looks like a Duck's Head with a bill on the front of it. You see, lost a lot of margin there, so Tara got the power down very, very smartly out of turn 10 and then up to Jun Sao. And Bolger just going to sit in the wheel tracks here and get a little bit of a slipstream. Let's just keep an eye out on things. Let's just see if we get a little bit more lift and post toward the end of front straight here.
He's certainly sitting nicely, and look at how early he's off the throttle there. Normally you're trying to break it around just before the 100-meter board, or around the 100-meter board, and he was off the throttle at about 200 meters before the corner. So really, really saving every little milliliter of fuel, but somehow at the moment he's doing that without losing too much time, which is quite impressive.
And these 3 drivers on screen here, they're all about the same pace at the moment. So Tara was a 32, nearly a 32.4 on that last lap. Bolger with a 32.3 and the other 32. And we've had a spinner. Lewis Weddy's gone around again. So that's the second incident he's been involved in. I'm not sure if that one was of his own doing or not, but that's out of the center S.
And it scattered everyone. It was with his own doing, but he's back on the track now. He just got a little too high up on the curb, and we'll catch the replay, or we caught the replay, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we are now. And what did you do there? Just spent a little bit too long on that inside curb at turn 3. Oh, Jesus, Higginson. Probably very, very lucky to avoid that. Did a fantastic job of getting out of the way. And actually, in fact, I think that cost him some spots as well, because he was first man on the scene. And he's now lost spots to Brendan Ross and Steve Warwick, who have gone through having to take that evasive action.
And while we've been watching that, we've actually missed out on a pretty tight battle between Turmo and Steve Bolger after a brief mistake in the middle part of the lap. I was about to say before Lewis had his spin,
you'll have him here.
Turmo,
might have
Bolger.
He might have. I was about to say he might have him here, but he was right under the rear wing of the Ferrari on the run to turn 1, but he didn't pull the trigger, and instead, I think he just used as much of that slipstream as he could for as long as he could, did Turmo. And now has lost a car length or two, but this is
what I was about
really
to say, man. Sorry to jump in on top of you. Is that while we were watching Steve Bolger last lap around, he set the fastest first sector of the race. So he was really pushing it despite fuel saving into the first corner. So the fact that he then lost 0.6 of a second in the middle sector, coloured me intrigued. So I went back and found it. So they've dropped off the back of Noah Taro now, and they've kind of engaged in their own little battle for third, while Noah's trying to streak away.
Wondering whether or not he just thought, okay, well, I've gotten to the fuel number I need to get to, and then decided it was time to pull the trigger and up the pace a little bit and maybe try and stabilise things for when they get to the pit stop sequence. But he's obviously made a mistake partway through that lap as the Gravel Rash Racing driver, and he's slowly starting to build that margin back towards Noah Tara again here. So he lost a bit of time. He's now picked his pace back up again, having a look at the timing. Not the cleanest sector 2, but he was quicker than Noah Tara by a couple of tenths through sector 2. He lost 2 tenths in sector 1 because there was that little spirited run with Turmo there. But these 3 are going to be locked at the hip for a little bit. And Greg Tara behind. We'll keep an eye on the times here. So Noah Tara 32.4 that time around. Steve Bolger 32.1. Turmo with a track cut. And then Greg Tara with a 32 flat. So Greg Tara is actually quicker than all of these guys at the moment.
And Bowl just said his fastest lap that time around, fastest lap of the race for him, that 32.1.
Damon Wood still out in front, setting his last lap around was only a tenth shy of what the race fastest lap is at the moment as well. So still a lot going on there, a lot going on through here. Good spirited battle as well between Steve Warwick and Brendan Ross through the opening centre chicane, and down the Retta Aposta they come. And again, that Porsche just not with the straight leg, or the legs in a straight line, and has to fall back in behind the big Bentley, which is punching a big old hole in the air for the Porsche.
Yes, it's one of those. Sorry, go ahead, Baggy.
I would say I'm probably expecting Woods in the next, depending on how well he's been saving, in the next 2 to 3 laps.
Well, I can give you an update on that and say that he's not saving anything at all. I've just been riding on board with him this lap, and there is zero hint of a lift and coast at any part of the circuit. And it shows in his lap times as well.
And the gap's not going up at the same rate of knots that it has been over the last, 3 or 4 laps either. So the difference between himself and the guys behind is only about 0.8 of a second, as opposed to about a second a lap. So the guys behind have started to lift their pace, while Damon Woods' times have just started to come backwards just a little bit to be a bit more on par with what the sort of expected race pace is going to be.
In saying that, though, Nether, he is still in the 31s, which is a bit ridiculous.
It is. It is a very, very ridiculous time to be doing in race trim. And we did say the lap records are probably not going to be well and truly threatened this time around because of the re-BOPing of all the cars, but there is still a very, very quick man out in front to chase. And there's plenty of chasing going on. There's plenty of cars that are just sort of paired off at the moment. So we saw the Steve Warwick and Brendan Ross battle. There's this one going on as well. So Nathan Higginson heading off Lewis Wedding, who's had a couple of had the mistake on his own. He's had the mistake that he got involved in, or the incident he got involved in with Steve Warwick that Steve gave back to him. So there's good little pairings off all the way up and down the field at the moment. The other one that is going on, I've been keeping it on for a little bit as Wedding pulls the trigger on Nathan Higginson, gets that job done. It was Brian Walsh and Glenn Miles for a while, and these two, of course, have got they call themselves the old guard. They've got that little rivalry going, and Glenn's actually managed to kick away here. So I think Walsh has had a bit of a poor lap somewhere, and was on the last lap. 1:40 flat was the last lap for Brian Walsh. So that split the Playboy GTRs up. Although Glenn's about to make that margin go back to naught, I think, with that little manoeuvre there.
Ah, classic.
Rejoins the track.
They do get into it with each other. It's great. In fact, both of them said that they weren't going to be able to come tonight, and then Glenn jumped in the server and started doing laps. So Brian jumped in the server and started doing laps, and lo and behold, they both ended up racing.
That's it. And I think they both missed out on Super 2 last night as well. I think both of them, have had the COVID jabs recently as well. And I know from Will Devonish is in the live chat at the moment supporting Termo. He's had it through some of the work that he does, some of the aged care homes, and it does knock you around a fair bit. Common sort of symptoms of the COVID jab are chills and needing to feel warm when your body temperature is actually sort of normal temp. And got the shakes.
That could just be living in Melbourne, though, couldn't it?
Well, it could be at this time of year with the winter. It's not all that flash. But we have actually got our first pit caller, and it is Glenn Miles, and this is very, very early in the race, so probably not going to threaten anything by taking stops here, but that'll be to do with that spin, I think. Probably has cooked the rear tyres a little bit, so he's going to get that done.
Things that are going to be a little bit cooked, and something that's going to have to be taken account that we haven't spoken about, the tyres, and the fact that you basically will want to put on a fresh set of boots if you're doing a two-stopper at every stop, because the front right tyre takes an absolute punishment around here, especially all the way up from Zhongxiao up through that whole long curved straight. You're just putting pressure on that tyre through the end of the first and start of the second sectors. It just gets absolutely hammered. So potentially you could change just one side if you wanted to at a stop, just to try something a little bit different, but I think it'll just be it makes most sense anyway to change all your tyres at every pit stop unless you're doing a splash and dash near the end, because it's very, very punishing.
You can see here as well that this gap out in front is now at about 15.5 seconds, but Greg Turra as bookending the second, third, fourth and fifth places. You've got Noah Turra in second, you've got Steve Bolger third, Turmo fourth, Greg Turra fifth. Now these guys have all split apart in the last 3 or 4 minutes or so. They were a lot closer than this. Turmo's actually falling back towards Greg Turra. They've got Glenn Miles to negotiate, and that's a good bit of driving there, so let's him go on past, and Steve Bolger will get that job done as well. Margins there, so so Noah Turra and Steve Bolger is about 1.5 seconds, and then about the same back to Turmo, then about 1 second between Turmo and Greg Turra. Now Greg's got, again, a nice little run out of Jules and getting a little bit of a hole punched in the air by the GTR. A good lap there as well, 32.1, so not far off his best. So Greg's lifted his pace here.
And Turmo's run wide on the entry to the first part of the centre S. He's going to be very vulnerable down the tail end of this straight. Turra gets a great run. He's going to sit right in the wheel tracks of the Nissan GTR as they run down the Retta Aposta. And is he going to pull out and make a dive? Just thinks better of it right at the last moment, but Turmo runs wide yet again, and it's going to invite the BMW back down the inside.
Turmo worried off the track there, but Turra unable to make anything of it, unfortunately, but he is still having a very, very close inspection of that Nissan logo on the back of Turmo's car. And
this was, remember, the battle that was the first, 2 laps of the race? Turmo leading Greg Turra. And I think it was maybe even lap 1 or lap 2 that, it wasn't Turmo, it was the other Nissan, it was Tim Redmond, which Turra was right in the wheel tracks of in the early stages of the race.
Yeah, Dame Woods is starting to come up. He's come up on the Walsh and Zach Brown battle, and he's picking his way through the traffic. So that's costing him a little bit of time. He's at a 1:31.9 instead of a mid 1:31 that last lap. So clearly it's affected him greatly.
Yeah, he's caught them at the wrong part of the track too. So we got Brian Walsh sort of through the straight, but he caught Zach Brown through the centre S. So it has cost him a couple of tenths of a second here, but he has actually dispatched the traffic pretty efficiently, as Damon Woods, and still enjoys that 16.75 second advantage. And as we said, the big question mark is, when does he need to stop for fuel and tyres? Because he has been trucking along very, very hard for quite some time. Let's since the drop of the green flag. Geez, guys, I'm going to go on a whim here and say, guys, it's been a while since we've had a flag-to-flag Grand Slam pole, fastest lap, lead every lap. I can't recall the last time we've had it in ASR in any of the series. Maybe Kurt Stenberg or something in supercars might have been one that happened at one point, but I have to go back through the record books and try and find it. It doesn't happen all that often.
I don't think it happened today just because of Bolger's fuel-saving ability and the fact that he's probably going to go a fair bit further. But the thing is, Dame Woods here, the gap he's built is enough that even if he had to pit this lap, which he hasn't, he's getting to the point where, and you remember that the fuel that they had on board included them having to do a formation lap. Obviously they weren't using a lot of fuel, but does still use a little bit, as I think Dame Woods ran a little bit wide in the centre S of them, which is the first mistake I've seen him make all night so far.
That's also the first 32 he's set the whole night so far.
That
traffic in the first sector didn't help him, but he's going to be, if he pits at the end of this lap, that's still pretty much bang on for him making this on 2 stops. So despite not fuel saving and just absolutely going for it, he's going to be able to manage on 2 stops and at this rate just demolish the field.
Here we go, guys. First proper pit stop caller is Steve Warwick. So he was sort of having to fend off the 2 Porsches of Brendan Ross and Lewis Wedding. So he's the first one call, and Nathan Higginson follows him. So these are the first ones, and these guys are a little bit earlier than probably what they needed to be to make this one work on a true 2-stop strategy.
It seems like they're sharing a pit room, so Nathan Higginson is not getting serviced at the moment.
No.
Unless Higginson's going just for fuel. Yeah, he's actually, you're right. We're looking at this on the other screen, and we're trying to get this to go. No, I'm not sure. I'm not
He's just- no,
100%
he's just-
sure.
He hasn't changed tyres. I don't think he's got fuel. I think he's just given up on the pit stop and he's going to come around next time.
Okay, that's an interesting discussion, that point that needs to be had here. So,
And our leader is in the pits. Sorry to cut you off, Nether. Our leader is in the pits.
all right, so here we go. So Damon Woods in right smack on the 1/3 distance mark. So this actually looks pretty ominous
in
now.
as well.
Yep.
Bolger continues.
And here we go. They're all
And
coming
Greg
in.
Tara comes in as well.
So-
Oh no!
All right, so here we go.
Not
Steve
good
Bolger
Tara.
goes through. Termo goes through. Here come the Tara clan. See the G&W cars. They're grinning, not winning, they call themselves. So Greg is going to come into the pit bay here. Now what's Noah going to do? Here comes the fun stuff.
Oh, Noah's
Oh!
gone their way forwards.
And they actually, no, Greg
And-
missed the pit box.
Tara's... Noah missed the pit box.
Oh,
He
sorry,
went too
sorry,
far forwards.
correct.
And now Greg's not getting serviced yet, though. He's still waiting.
Oh no!
This is what happens. And they had
He's trying to...
these guys had a pit strategy miscommunication.
There
Oh,
you
this is
go.
a
At,
disaster. There he goes.
at-
Now he's finally in.
These guys had a pit strategy miscommunication at Estoril as well. So this is not the first
Estoril.
time this has happened. So
And Damon's away.
he is. So now it's obviously taken a fair bit of time for Damon Woods to process through the stop there. So he's now exiting pits.
Oh.
Oh.
Just to compound things for Greg Tara.
Yeah, correct.
It's moved all the way across the side and Taipan's right in his way.
There they are.
This is just horrendous for him at the moment, as we see Nathan Higginson's finally coming into the pits now as well. Greg Tara,
Noah's-
he will not be
Noah's-
happy.
Yeah, he'd be steaming in that BMW at the moment. Noah's come,
I don't-
made his way out of the pits. Tim Redmond's
so-
going to get out ahead of Greg Tara. There goes
Mishra-
Greg.
Oh, it's just going to not get out ahead of Tara, but yeah, it's cost Tara a lot of... I don't know why they haven't worked out that you can park side by side. You just have to go halfway onto the pit box and two people can use the same boom, but they haven't figured that one out yet.
Right, so
So,
there are a few other things going on here. So Bolger's gone around again. Termo is coming into the pits now out of what is currently second place. So he's going to pull in there ahead of Nathan Higginson. So that means that he's gotten past the 1/3 distance without a problem. Steve Bolger, what was his pace on the last lap? It was a 1:32.8, so it wasn't as fast as he's been so far. It was about 7/10 slower than his best, but Steve Bolger playing the fuel strategy game and seeing what he can do. This actually might bode well for him a bit later on in the race, depending how far he can go. He's going to have a shorter fill toward the end of the race, and then he's essentially going to sprint for maybe what would be 20-25 minutes at this rate. So if he comes in on this lap, he's setting himself up for about a 25-minute final stint plus the last lap. The traffic's fallen pretty favourably for him at the moment, guys, so this could be working out quite well. The effective race leader, Damon Woods, has got a little bit of clear track, but he has got some traffic that he does need to contend with in about the next 20 seconds or so.
Is the Ferrari capable of a one-stop in this? 'Cause
Surely not. No, definitely not. If there's anything to go by from what we've seen previously, it's definitely not capable of.
And he's coming in now.
Here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
So we got to lap 21. So we were talking about lap 19 being sort of the cutoff that you needed to get to make it for a two-stop strategy to work. He's gone 2 laps better than this, so this is very, very good for Steve Bolger.
And we'll see the Porsches come onto the main straight now as well. Lewis Wedding and Brendan Ross.
These
Are they
guys
going to
get to
jump
stop
into
as
the
well.
pits as well?
Yep.
Lewis Wedding comes into the pits. Brendan Ross dives into the pits as well. So that will leave our effective race leader as Damon Ross.
I'm wondering
Brendan
if Brendan
Ross.
Ross is going to be in some trouble there, because I don't think he got it pulled up before the line. I think maybe he was a full car length over before the car got down to the pit lane speed limit. But this game does funny things, but I would not be surprised to see a penalty issued for car number 991.
And Damon Woods has gone through and inherited the race lead once again.
Here he
Yeah,
goes.
you're saying before, I don't know if it's good for Steve Bolger, but I mean, because he has ended up almost 20 seconds behind first place and only gone 2 laps further. So I don't think overall
what that
it's
does
very
give-
good for him.
What that does give him, though, Bagsy, is it gives him a bit of flexibility.
Look at this,
So
though,
if
guys.
there
Look
is
at this, though. Sorry to cut you off here, Flood. Before you talk about flexibility, this is going to be very close between Bolger and probably Termo and Noatara. So Bolger may have actually played a good strategy master stroke here, and he's actually jumped Termo and he's jumped Noatara because of the issues in the pit. So that's very, very important because Bolger was behind Noatara. He now is in effective second place in this race.
So he's gained 4 positions because of that extra, well, just a good pit sequence, good pit stop and good outlap. So well done to Bolger. To finish the point I was making about his flexibility, if we get a safety car at like 40 minutes remaining, Bolger feasibly can come in and make his last pit stop in that safety car because he'll be using less fuel and there'll be a lot of extra time chewed up because of the safety car. The other guys can't do that, and because they're sort of committed to pitting on the half hour because of the way that they've pit very early in inverted commas in the sequence. So Bolger has a little bit more flexibility. It just remains to be seen whether or not that comes to help him in the latter stages of the race.
Let's talk about the big movers and shakers through all of this as well. So there's been plenty of guys that have lost some positions. So the one of the men that's probably one of the worst affected by all of this is Greg Tara after the first sequence of stops. He's lost 3 places. He, of course, was up the pointy end at the beginning of the race, started 3rd, currently 6th. He's been in the wars a little bit. Bad pit stop sequence for the G&W racing team has cost him dearly. On the other flip side of the equation, Ujit Mishra, big beneficiary of all the calamity been going on, has gained 3 spots. So he is up to position number 7 and tracking along very, very nicely. Brendan Ross is also a beneficiary of everything that's been going on, up to up 3 places on the running order. And then on the flip side again, Steve Warwick has been involved in the wars a bit. He's lost 3 places, but he's still inside the top 10. So 3s is the order of the day here, gentlemen. They always say bad things happen in 3s. I'm wondering what's going to be next.
Oh, don't tell that to Greg Tara. Please don't tell that to Greg Tara.
Well, let me put it this way. The drivers should not be listening to the broadcast when it's going on. We've told, I think, Rody off copious amounts of times for doing this. I'm not sure if he actually does do it or not, but I think he has been picked up once or twice for it. But we tell him, don't watch the broadcast. Don't look at yourself on the broadcast. Wait until after the race is over. Then you can go back and watch it. It's always going to be there. So don't take our advice on the broadcast. We're not attempting to put the moz on you or anything like that. Just let it go, gentlemen.
If we're going to continue things in 3s, 3 sets of 10 seconds that Damon Woods is ahead of Steve Bolger now.
Close enough.
After that set of pit stops, he has pulled out a even larger gap, and yeah, it's now 30 seconds ahead.
I was just about to make a mention of that as well, because his lap times have just become metronomic. Straight away, straight back into the 131s, a 31.4 the lap after his outlap, 31.7 that lap around with the purple middle sector. He's just absolutely smoking the field at the moment, and that is due in part as well to the fact that Bolger's got his hands full with a Nissan GTR right up the rear of that Gravel Rash Racing Ferrari.
He does indeed. Termo has had a couple of dives at this part of the circuit over the opening 30 minutes already, been involved in a couple of dices. Not on this occasion. Ferrari very, very good under brakes. The GTR's normally pretty decent under brakes as well, but Termo we've seen has run a little bit wide down there at turn 4 on a couple of occasions and has had to gather it up very, very quickly. One time he was able to do the cut back, and one time he hasn't been able to maintain the spot. But a little bit of lap traffic here. Zach Brown does a very good job, having only another one of the new entrants into not just the series, but ASR in general.
Is his name actually Zach Brown, or is he just memeing by driving a McLaren?
No, he's actually. I think today he's memeing by driving a McLaren. That is actually his real name. I mean, the Zach Brown,
fantastic.
the Zach Brown that is the team principal, Zach Brown at McLaren, actually is ZAK. This one's a ZACK. So yeah, I noted the other day he has actually changed his name in Discord to McLaren boss Zach Brown. That's in regards to I think Rody dropping that one on him in Super 2 last night.
I'm going to interrupt you, Nether, because it's Steve Bolger versus Termo, and Termo wraps around the outside.
He's gone way too deep.
He's going to come, he's very lucky not to come straight back across the track and end up stranded in the middle there, but Bolger got out of it very early, and Termo just kept going. So Bolger stays in second. Now Turmo's going to be vulnerable to Noah Tara any tick of the clock.
He is, and here's the replay of that one. So he was lining the pass up from a long way back, and Bolger took the defensive approach, which he was entitled to do, and then Turmo just way too late on the brakes, so just out of control. And this is the bit that I think was probably the smart driving. He realised that there was no point going back to there and just took the escape road and rejoined the circuit safely, and that was probably the best course of action that he could have done, given that if he had gone back to try and negotiate turn 2 properly, he may have had a collision with Noah Tara there. So heads up driving by Turmo to take the evasive route once he had made the mistake, and he has put himself a bit hot under the collar here, because he's pretty much half that deficit that to Noah Tara. It's gone the other way. From Noah Tara's point of view, the deficit has halved. I think that's probably the correct way of pronouncing putting it.
Yeah, Noah Tara set heads up driving from Bolger in that sequence just by letting him sail on past, and Bolger greets the apex nice and closely, and well, Turmo sort of, if the apex was the moon landing site, then he was definitely in the command module still. As Noah Tara looks to have a go at Turmo, but decides not. Turmo getting all over the apex that time, and he's a bit rough on the curb there though, so there's going to be better drive from Noah Tara here. He is absolutely right there, and he's going to have a very good slipstream there. He's so close up behind. Out he comes. Here's the decision time on the brakes, and better on the brakes from Noah Tara. He slides that BMW in front nicely, and away he goes.
That's a very good job. Very good pass, very good under brakes. That's one thing that I think Noah Tara's picked up his game a fair bit since the first time we saw him in GT3 action all the way back in 2019. It's the consistency and it's the braking, and he's really started to put to show that he can outbrake just about anybody under passing conditions. And in the car cocking its rear left tyre a little bit there, going down through the inside part of the course, but not uncommon here at Interlagos in some of these places. And through the last part of Sector 2 they go. Now the next car, of course, up the field, you can see there is Steve Bolger. The gap is just under 1 second, not by much, but it is just under a second. And now that he's in some clear air, Noah Tara is just starting to kick away a little bit from Turmo. Let's have a look at the comparative lap times when they get to the line this time around.
Mention that. Now, the last lap around, the Toros were the next two fastest cars on track after our leader Damon Woods, who actually had a bit of an excursion last lap around, running a little wide at turn 4.
He's actually been done for a track violation for that one as well, so that's one strike for him.
Yeah, so the Toros were both 32 flats. Tim Redmond, a 32-1 for him. He's actually now dipped into the 31s, as has Noah Tara this lap. So they're really starting to put the hammer down. Interesting for Tim. It's a shame that he's 10-second behind the battle for second place, because him and Greg Tara have got some very decent pace at this stage of the race.
Yeah, 31.8 and 32 not and 32 flat for these two guys on screen at the moment.
To be fair for Tim Redmond, that is of his own doing from that incident with Tara near the start of the race, and Tara's is due to his unfortunate pit stop timing, which they will hopefully work on to try and fix. If people are wanting a visualize,
go ahead. Sorry, I was about to say you'd think a father-son duo would have better communication as teammates than other non-related team duos.
Yeah, you think they would be at an advantage in this scenario, but apparently
they could literally
not.
yell at each other and say, "I'm pitting this lap, don't pit."
Well, they are in the same part there.
I feel if I'm in Greg's position, I'm going to be like, "No, you're not pitting this lap, or you're grounded because I'm going to. I need the better pit strategy. Thank you very much." But they seem to be going with the person who's in the lead gets the better pit strategy, and that is Noah Tara at the moment. So hopefully they're able to iron out the kinks.
Very nearly did what Turmo did a couple of laps ago. Now he can't keep that spot. He'll have to cough it up, and he will. But does he slot back into this gap between Turmo? No! Big moment on the backside of the curb at the exit of turn 3. Coughs the spot back up to Turmo. So he tried to do the trick that Turmo did, go right around the outside of Bolger. It looked for a minute like he was going to actually pull it off, but at the last split second, the rear end of the BMW got away from him, and he was forced to take that escape route.
That's actually pretty heads-up driving there. He very much could just have tried to make that apex of turn 2 and just fired Bolger off the road, but he did a very good job of just releasing the steering lock and just allowing the BMW to roll through the apex. Now Turmo's looking lively around the outside of Bolger in the infield. This is a bit of a repeat of what was happening earlier on. He's trying to go around the outside again as they come down to Jimmy.
It's been very kind the amount of space he's giving here.
Bit of contact as well on the run to Junsao as well.
Now watch Noah Tara wrap them both up.
I was going to say, Noah Tara has a big grin on his face, so hopefully he can go on board with Tara here maybe to see watch this one.
I don't think it's going to happen this lap. I think he'll just sit back and watch to see what happens, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. Bolger for the 3rd consecutive lap takes the defensive line on the inside of the corner. Turmo, this time, gets it done.
Oh, Bolger was the one with the rears sliding around, so managed to sneak out the other side, all right. Doesn't seem
Look at the drive for Bolger, though.
Wow.
Out of the chicane.
That's mega drive for Steve Bolger, and is he going to resend it? No. But he's got to be wary as well, because Noah Tara being right there, it's a double-edged sword for these guys right now. They can attack, but then if they don't attack, they've got to play defense.
Just as an aside, guys, all 3 of them picked up a track cut last lap around. I was trying to look at the track at the lap times to see how they were all doing, and all of them got a track cut. Fastest guys on track are still, of course, Damon Woods, but Tim Redmond and Greg Tara, 32 flat for Redmond, so he's starting to actually make strides away from Greg Tara, just a little bit behind this battle.
And they all the Noah Tara got done in Sector 1, the other 2 got done in Sector 2. So that's where they all got their track cuts from on the last lap. So I'd imagine the guys that got done in Sector 2 were done at turn 4, and in Sector 1, Noah Tara would have been the one as he cut across the chicane, having to take that evasive action. So that's where he would have been done. So that explains a little bit there.
I don't want to put the moz on Damon Woods at the moment, but I'm going to anyway. At the current pace,
you absolutely want to put the moz on Damon Woods.
At the current pace it's going, there is the potential for Damon Woods to just lap the entire field this race if things keep going the way they are. Especially with these guys battling. I haven't actually checked on the last couple of laps, but a few laps ago, just if you want to visualize the gap between Damon Woods and this the group of 3 we've been watching battle, who are actually very close all over again. It is essentially he's going through the center S as they are coming up to the final corner at the bottom of the hill. So he is essentially half a lap ahead.
That's kind of terrifying.
It is a little bit terrifying. And what's terrifying is we're still got half this race to go. So the first half of the race has gone pretty quickly, and there's been a couple of little incidents, but for the most part, it's been relatively uneventful for Damon Woods out in front, very, very comfortably out in front. The real battle, as we keep coming back to all the time, is this one over the last 2 spots on the rostrum as it sits right now between 3 cars. And then a little bit further back, we are still keeping an eye on things to see what's going on with Tim Redmond and Greg Tara. They're almost trading laps at the moment. Like 1 minute,
lapping faster than 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Last time around they were, and in one lap, Redmond's faster by a couple of tenths, and the next lap it's Tara that's faster by a couple of tenths. So this gap sort of it's at a bit of a stalemate at the moment between the 5th place GTR and the 6th place BMW. And if we get a bit of a readout on what the guys ahead are doing, so 1 minute 32.3, 32.5, 32.6 for the 3 battling over the last couple of spots on the podium. And then behind 31.9 for Redmond, 32 flat for this man on screen. So they are catching, but it's just not at the rate they need to be doing it.
Oh, Noah's got a eyeful of the rear of the Ferrari. He's going to swing to the inside and make the move down into turn 4. I was just about to say the battle for this 2nd place had just settled for a moment with them all putting in a decent lap, but now it's kicked off again and Turmo's been able to break away.
Coming up on Higginson, I believe, to lap him at the moment. I think that's Higginson in front of them. So that's could cause some issues in this little, especially because they're coming up on him in this very twisty section. We'll see how that plays out.
And
Yes.
just as an aside, guys, Damon Woods has just started the next lap, so that's the gap at the moment.
There you go. So it's getting bigger and bigger as the race gets on and going up very, very quickly. At the moment, it's going up to the tune of about 7/10 or so of a second per lap. And where's Higginson in all of this? So from Termo's onboard point of view, there's where Nathan Higginson currently is. And I dare say BMW's got a little bit of poke in straight line, but if Higo keeps going out to the wide part of the track like that, he's going to find himself in trouble.
He's going to let him go.
Yeah, so now he's actually, I think he's saying, well, come on guys, I'm faster, you're faster than me, get going. But I think now he's actually going to put the foot down.
Oh.
And they'll have to let him through down the Retta Reposta.
So I was just on board with Noah Taro because I saw that he got a great run out of Junkao, and he was off the throttle a good 30, 40, 50 meters before Termo was. He's very happy to sit in the wheel tracks of the GTR at the moment, I think.
And
he just
as he
shows
pulls
his
towards the
nose.
inside,
for about half a second there, Flood, I think he decided he wanted to stay. He didn't want to stay in the wheel tracks, and then he popped back into line very, very quickly. So I was right. Higginson let them all pass down the Retta Reposta. And I don't know, Bolger just lost a little bit of touch. Has he gone into a fuel conservation thing for a bit, or did he make a mistake there?
Based on his lap times, I think he made a mistake. A 33 flat, and Noah Taro, I think, on the other hand, was looking very racy because he made a 31.9. So I think Noah's tried to get the hammer down and then had a second thought about it, whereas Bolger just kind of dropped away from the back of the group a little bit.
Elsewhere, there is a little bit of a Porsche battle still going on. So Lewis Wedding in 7th, Brendan Ross in 8th. They've now managed to get back past Ujit Mishra, who was 7th after the first round of stops. So they've gotten past him, I'd say, on a little bit of pure pace, but probably also on a little bit of a mistake from Ujit Mishra as well, who slipped back to 9th. And Steve Warwick, as he finished the pit stop sequence in 10th, he remains 10th.
Got Noah Taro is going for it in the main straight. He's gone to the inside. He's out braking Termo. Termo wants to go around the outside again. It's not going to happen. Better run out of the corner, but Noah Taro's placed his car very well. Now let's watch Bolger. He's going to have a very good drive because Termo was held up, so Termo might be losing 2 places. Although they're so close together now. Very defensive from Noah Taro. He has gone all the way inside. He can come back across, but only as far as where Termo's car is. He has to leave that car's width. And that was very well played from Noah Taro because it sort of took the air out of Termo and Bolger's run that they had going on him.
But it was sluggish.
It hasn't taken all the air.
Yeah, very sluggish off of turn 4 as well, and very nearly gave Termo a sniff here. And through this part of the circuit, I expected to be a little bit of a stalemate, but for a very brief moment there, just Noah Taro wasn't fast enough back to the accelerator pedal, and for a very brief moment, might have then rescinded second place back to Termo.
Termo's really got that car hooked up in the middle sector, hasn't let the BMW of Noah Taro gain anything as they come through to that second sector mark, and there's a little bit of lag there as Taro almost clips off the circuit. Very nice pointy run out of Junkao for Noah though, so he's probably going to be able to hold on to this position. All this battling has actually really allowed Tim Redmond to close the gap. Last lap around, a 32.7 for this group and a 32.3 on the other hand for Redmond. So
if we pause here, you can see them coming around here too, Flood. So there is Redmond and there is Greg Turris. So they're starting to get into the same picture here.
And last lap around for Redmond, that time a 32.1 versus 33s for Termo and a 32.8 for Noah. So that gap is starting to come down. It's going to be a little bit of a worry, maybe not now, but certainly after the pit sequence if they run into any troubles in the pits.
Yeah, pit sequence
probably about
bags will be over.
4 to 6 laps away from the next round of pit stops based on where people pit last time. Bolger obviously will go longer than the rest of them. But it's going to be interesting to see if this whole pack of 3 for the second, third spot on the podium becomes a pack of 5.
That would be. I'd love to see that.
That would be a very, very entertaining run in the last 30 minutes of this race. But the big thing that everyone needs to factor in here is the Taras sharing the pit boom. They need to sort that stuff out, and very, very quickly. Otherwise, they are going to be faced with another situation like where Greg is at the moment, having a big recovery drive just to even get back into podium contention.
That's the thing. Greg Tara needs to figure out something. Noah doesn't care because
Yeah.
he's in the lead at the moment and doesn't of the Tara cars and doesn't have an issue. Also, just to update that gap between the battle for second and first place at the moment, it's now when they are at the bottom of the hill. It is Damon Woods is halfway down the red. He's halfway down the back straight and just absolutely demolishing them at the moment.
Yeah, it is a bit of a demolishing performance at the moment. If I was fellow commentator in Supercars Hans Brunswick, the words that he has used before at the moment is, in my mind, is brutally uncompromising. There is absolutely no let-up from Damon Woods at the moment. Very, very comfortably clear in front, and getting to the point where, as you said, Bagsy, in about 3 laps, I think, Damon Woods is expected to come in for a stop, but he's a little bit narrow here off the final corner. He might be coming at the moment. No. Oh, that was a bit of a hard moment. It's a narrow line, so that's and a 31.6. So even despite the narrow line, a pretty handy lap time. But I was for sure almost positive there, because that's the line we've seen everybody take when they're getting ready to come into the pits. And I don't know, maybe he decided to go. He could go for one more.
Just a bit of a different train of thought here. The group playing it out for second, when they get a wriggle on, they're actually pretty quick. 32.1, 32.4, 32.3 for this group last lap around. So they actually stretched that gap back to Tim Redmond. But as soon as they engage in any sort of battling, that pace just goes out of the window. And we've got Turmo coming in. This is too early. This is too early for Turmo to get to the end. Has the battling forced his hand here? Has he not been able to save enough fuel to be able to get to the end of the race?
No, I got a funny feeling he's trying for an undercut strategy here, but I don't think this is going to work. It's way too early. It's not going to work unless he can save a ton of fuel in this one, but I'm with you, Flood. I don't like this one at all.
Well, he's going to be saving time in the pit stop here because he doesn't have as much fuel to put in. But yeah, it's going to have to be a very deft touch on the throttle. Unless, and this would be some really out there strategizing, he thinks that the whole field is going to get lapped by Damon Woods, and so he knows he only has to do one lap. In which case, that would be amazing.
Sorry, guys, we've got Taipan, who was having a bit of a lonely race in 11th place, has had a bit of an off-track excursion here in the infield of the circuit. I'm just wondering whether he was actually given a little bit of a nose job by the Brian Walsh Ferrari behind, so the Brian Walsh GTR behind, or whether it was of his own doing. We're about to find this out. And through the middle part of the circuit, because Brian Walsh is very close to me on the scene. No, it was got its swapper on through the mid part of the circuit. So the Brian Walsh is off the hook there. He was well and truly clear, and Taipei has to feed back onto the circuit behind the GTR.
Yeah, very odd one there. Just kind of brought the throttle up, and it was like basically a motorbike high side, but in a Lamborghini.
Yeah, that's effectively what it was, wasn't it?
Damon Woods is basically at the point where he can pit now if he wanted to and do a splash and dash later and still come out ahead quite easily if he doesn't take tyres at the second stop. But I think he's just going to push it as far as he can and have a nice easy run to the end. But yeah, he is just absolutely dominating. He's coming up to 9th place at the moment, which is Steve Warwick to lap him. So
I've got a question, Nether. What is the point structure for the endurance races? Is it a 25 or is it 50 points?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a different structure with how the points have gone this year. So I'm going to I'll draw that up in a few moments just so everyone can understand how that one works when I get the standings up. Here we go.
Yeah,
so the long distance format, the 90-minute format actually warrants 50 points for a race winner. So it is weighted to try and keep it fairly even. So maximum of 50 points per night for the sprint format. You get 25 points for a sprint win. So if you get both race wins, you get 50 points. The 70-minute format, the race winner would get 45 points, and then 90 minutes races you would get 50 points for the winner as well. So it's fairly well spread across the night, sort of rewarding the longer distance format a lot more.
Put the foot down.
Yeah, he's
And
coming
put the
around
foot
the
down,
outside of
trying-
Noah Tara into the first corner.
Oh, they're still side by side through the center S's. This is still anyone's vision, and Bolger gives it up there. As I don't know if that was just a bit of showmanship from Bolger. He's trying to keep Noah on his toes, or if it was genuinely he's realised it's time to put the foot down.
I actually think it was actually Noah having a problem out of the final corner, because his lap time in the final chicane, yeah, it was. He went right through Junkao and lost an absolute mountain of time. So he was a very vulnerable position coming through that straight. So lucky to hold on, but it's really invited some pressure. And we should start to see these guys coming in shortly. Once again, we've got Steve Warwick in the pits and Lewis Wedding making an early pit stop.
Yes.
Damon Woods has gone around again, so he's easily going to make this on 2 stops, despite his pace, which is just incredible, really.
Yeah, we called it being 19 laps to make the pit stop sequences work. And he's currently working lap 39 for him, so he's gone beyond that 19 lap window on this particular occasion. If you factor in the formation lap as well, he did effectively a 20 lap stint in the first sequence, and he's doing pretty much a 20 lap stint now. And this should comfortably, for a little moment there, I think he would have had the heart in the mouth. He's pushing it there, up over the sausage curb at the back of turn 6 there as well. So this might be the lap where he puts it into the pit lane. And there are a couple of other stops going on here as well. So in the pit lane, Steve Warwick leaving, Tim Redmond arriving.
Entering. And Steve Bolger looking to get around Noah Tara, but still he sits behind, just going around turn 4. It's been a very willing battle. Whereabouts the Turmo drop out? He's in 8th now with Warwick having made the pit stop. He's got 20 seconds ahead of him and 20 seconds behind him.
Yes,
Race leader in the pits.
Here he comes. So you can see here with Tim Redmond stationary in the lane. Here comes Damon Woods.
I was going to say, Damon Woods' entry into the pits was absolutely picture perfect. It was just delightful to watch.
There we go. And there's Turmo. So you can see Turmo just in the back is shot there. He's now going to wrap up Tim Redmond while he is stationary in the lane. So that's for 7th place. But of course, there is the big question mark over whether this man has gone too early trying to affect the undercut on the men he was battling with. So they are at the opposite end of the circuit. So while Turmo's down here at the pit exit, the 2 men he was battling with are coming round to complete their lap. So they're about 10 seconds away from the lane. And here they come. So this is covering each other off.
Time.
So they can easily get home from here.
Great
That's the important thing.
as well.
And here we go.
How does Noah Tara place his car? He's placed it slightly more sideways.
Greg's easing up. Greg's easing up here, gentlemen. He's realised that he needs to slow down, and they've miscommunicated again.
What he needs to do, he needs to go in and just shove Noah's car to the side slightly, and he'll be able to get in there, because this has just cost him.
Again, another 10 seconds.
What the
And he's just
flashing the lights too.
He just gained back about another 4 seconds on that battling pair as well. So he's being absolutely murdered. This is like Jamie Whincup and who was his co-driver that year? Paul Dumbrell that 1 year at Bathurst, where they were. Oh no, it was the other way around. Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes, where they had to double stack behind Whincup all day and ended up losing Bathurst by less than a second.
Here we go. Steve Bolger's going to get out ahead of Noah Tara as well here, and he's actually going to get ahead of the lap traffic in Taipan too. So that's actually really good for Steve Bolger. So he's played this one perfectly. Greg Tara is. Tara hasn't moved. Greg Tara, I'm sorry here, guys. Greg Tara is in the lane.
Does he run out of fuel?
I don't know.
Wow.
I'm trying to work this out. So
his car is not making any noises.
So
he may have actually run out of fuel.
Oh
in the lane.
Dear, this is bad things for the championship leader at the moment.
That might have been the reason he came to a stop, not the fact that Noah was in the.
And of course, the pit entry is all uphill. He's stranded. He's stuck.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. Oh, Ujit Mishra with a bit of a get out of the fast lane here, Greg. I need to get going.
I think that was a courtesy bump.
And he's in.
To
and he's
get
in.
him going.
So that's disastrous for the race for the championship leader at the moment, because as it stands right now, He's currently in 9th. Termo is actually ahead of Steve Bolger, so we haven't picked this up, guys.
Go.
So there's Steve
Cars
Bolger, there's Tara,
restarted.
and Termo with the undercut, making the undercut work, but he will have
Asterix.
big asterisks. He's going to have to probably go into a fuel conservation mode late in this race, whereas Bolger and Noah Tara, they can blaze on here. They can just put the hammer down. They have got enough fuel to get to the end of this race. They've got enough fuel to make it well and truly past the +1 lap when the clock goes 0.
Well, maybe Noah might be in a bit more fuel trouble than Bolger. Bolger, remember, he pit very, very late in the piece, the first stint around.
Greg's going to go a lap down here. He's actually gone a lap down, sorry guys. So this is, and to make matters worse, he's been given a drive-through penalty as well. So I don't know what that's regarded. Maybe he just...
I'm guessing speeding on the way out.
Yeah, it has to be on the way out, I think. So a bit flustered under the collar. And Greg Tara is going to drop.
There's a spin in the background. Who is? I believe that might have been...
That's Redmond, I think.
Redmond, yeah.
So if we go back and, yeah, it was Tim Redmond. So let's go and have a look at that one on the Tara Resource Style Living replay, because I think he's done that one all by himself. And yeah, nobody around him. He tipped it in from the outside of the thing. And what happened here? Did the same thing Lewis Wedding did. Just on the curb for a bit too long, applied the power a little bit too greedily, and rotates the Kiwi Sim Sports GTR.
So it doesn't look like Damon Woods is going to manage to lap the field, but he's going to get a decent chunk of them. I believe he's going to get everyone probably up to Lewis Wedding in 7th place.
Guys,
or actually, that might be a bridge too far.
Guys, let's jump on board with Steve Bolger, because he's going to wrap around the inside of Termo. Termo doesn't even put up a fight in the end, through Junkao very wide, and Bolger is now already ahead of this in GTR.
Into that GTR though, he might just pass him back.
Is that? Oh, yes, he is. He's bump drafting down the main straight. He does lift off at the end of the straight and cede that position. I was just trying to run on board with Termo for a lap and see whether or not he's saving any fuel or anything, but it actually doesn't seem like he is to too much of an effect. A little bit there because he was right up Bolger's behind.
Now, there is something we need to factor in here too, guys. While these guys say they're 3rd and 4th on the road, they are battling for effectively 2nd and 3rd, because Brendan Ross is yet to stop for the 2nd time. So Porsche going long here. He was one of the latter ones to stop in the first sequence of pit stops, and expecting him probably to be in this lap, if not lap after. A bit of a brake lock-up going into Junsao. And you can see the gap there. Well, it's 22 seconds to Brendan Ross, but then it's 46 seconds from the race leader back to from Damon Woods all the way back to the race leader. So comfortably got this one in hand with 23 minutes to go, and in comes Brendan Ross. And again, just a beautiful, nice, simple to the line. No mistakes this time like he did last one. Actually got away without needing to do that tour through the pit lane, so he must have been very, very lucky. But much, much better pit entry for Brendan Ross this time. And that will cycle.
Pit entry, not going in. Noah Tara is monstering Termo and passing Termo and just waving goodbye to Termo as he breezes on by.
There they go. So whether or not Termo's got anything to fight with between now and the end of this race remains to be seen. But stations as they were.
That early pit stop may have cost Termo a podium here, because he's going to... Either he's fuel saving to save his life, or he's just bit off the pace in this last stint.
This might actually save Greg Taro to think about the championship, because if Termo A is saving fuel, he's running at a 134.2 while the guys around him are in the 132s, and Tim Redmond's in the 131s, which is stellar. So, you know, Termo could lose more positions here to Tim Redmond and possibly even Lewis Wedding if the fuel save is that bad. The alternative is that he goes balls to the wall for the next 15 minutes and comes in for another pit stop, which would drop him even further down the field. So this might actually save Greg a little bit of pain here in terms of the championship, because the points gap isn't going to be nearly as much as it might have been, considering what did you say earlier on in the piece, Nether? Bad things come in threes?
Yeah, bad things come in threes is precisely what I said. Now, I'm just actually about to do the high-level math here at the moment for the point standings, just to see where it sits. So it was 9 points between Termo and Greg Tara coming into tonight. So as it stands right now, Termo in 4th place would inherit 36 points for a 4th place finish. Greg Tara, currently in 12th place, would inherit 14.
Wow.
So there would be a change at the top of the leaderboard as it stands right now.
What about Steve Bolger? Where does Steve Bolger's current 2nd place play into this?
Well, he'll get 45 points for this one, and he was at 104 points versus Greg Tara's 119. So he's going to stand to benefit from this as well. So I'm just trying to, in my mind, crunch the numbers. Termo being on 109 and then another 5 points further back to Steve Bolger. So I think Bolger maybe might have it by a point. My mental math is not good at the moment. I haven't got the points graphic in front of me, but it would be very tight at the top. But Bolger and Termo would both leapfrog Greg Tara as it stands right now.
It's not going to be as bad for Greg Tara because he's most likely, I'm going to say, get 10th. He's 13 seconds off Taipan, and we know he's a lot faster than Taipan. So I would say if you'd lock in 10th for Greg Tara, because Higginson just had to pit as well, so he's got that position and is up into 11th. He's actually trying to unlap himself from Lewis Wedding at the moment, who's in 7th. Everyone else is way too far ahead for him to catch up in 20 minutes. So Taipan is currently coming through the bottom of the track, and I'd say Greg is going to catch him pretty easily. Greg's last lap was a 131. Taipan's last lap was a 134, so I think that gap's going to disappear quickly.
And Noah's trying to do everyone a favour here as well and make a pass on Steve Bolger, and he's done it around the outside into turn 1. Well done, but he's going to be a little tardy off the exit of the centre S's, and Bolger's going to be right in the wheel tracks once again as they come down the Ritter Aposta down into turn 4. But Tara goes defensive once more. Bolger goes very deep, very deep.
Cutback, can he get a cutback? No. Way too wide to make that cutback work. So that's a bit more of an effort that Bolger has to put in here, but these guys have got the ability to pretty much just to race on and race hard until the checkered flag. Now, coming back to what you were talking about, so Termo is here in 4th place, and his pace has just evaporated. He's now gone into hardcore fuel save mode, a 34.7 last lap around. Tim Redmond is closing in at the moment like a Japanese missile in that GTR. He is romping along at a 32.2, so he's going to go up into 4th place before too long, and that could further start to compound. This will probably start to swing the advantage back to Steve Bolger at the head of this championship. With how this is all starting to play out. Taipan's sort of sticking to the rear bumper as much as he can of Tim Redmond, because as we mentioned just a few seconds ago, Greg Tara in 11th place. If you can do the math here, so there's Taipan. We'll get a readout on him as he comes across the line. You can see that he's still trucking along behind the Kiwi Tim Redmond. So if we pause it here, there goes Redmond. There goes Taipan, and then we wait, and here comes Greg Tara, having just gotten past Lewis Wedding to try and get a lap back, trying to unlap himself there a little bit, but there he is. So last lap again, 32.8 for Tara, Taipan 34.3, and 17 minutes and change to play. So it's doable, but it's it'll be still a fair effort just to recover to a top 10.
Just an aside, guys. Brand new fastest lap of the race, 31.2. Damon Woods, he is smoking everyone, and we've been saying that all night. Fantastic stuff. Termo, on the other hand, since making the pit stop on lap 36, this is 9 laps ago, has not put in a lap that is faster than a 33.4. He's in hardcore fuel conservation mode, and it is not going the way that he needs it to. In fact, he's just lost that position to Tim Redmond.
Yeah, that happened on screen just a few seconds ago. So
yeah.
Redmond through Turmo in big saving mode. What I think Turmo probably tried to do here, Flood, is he gambled on trying to get the other guys to pull the trigger so he would be racing them on the same strategy, and it hasn't worked. It's like there was a man in former Carolina Panthers coach Ron Rivera, they used to call him the riverboat gambler, and in Turmo's case, he's gone down the river and he's up the creek without a paddle at the moment.
Now, he might even lose a position to Lewis Wedding. Wedding is lapping at the moment, but anywhere between 1.5 and 2 seconds a lap faster. With 16 minutes left, what we're expecting another 10 laps? It's 10 seconds on the dot, so it's going to be mighty tight for Turmo to hold on to that fifth place rather towards the latter stages of the race.
I'd be calling about 11 laps from here. I think looking about maybe 11, maybe 12, depending on how it all pans out. We're going to get very close to that upper marker, the 59 lap marker that we predicted at the beginning of the night.
The other thing that Wedding has going for him is the fact that Greg Tara's unlapped himself as Wedding tries to make what I'm saying incorrect immediately. But he's got Greg Tara there who's just unlapped himself from Lewis to use as a bit of a carrot to chase after. And we know that Greg's pace has been very good. His last lap was a 132.2, and the person he's chasing Turmo 134.9, essentially 135. So if Wedding can just hold on to him there, he's going to catch him at a very, very quick rate of knots.
You might have just overheard me laughing in the background. I noticed on the timing screen that last lap around for Damon Woods was a 33.9. So I've gone back and had a bit of a look. He actually got involved in a little bit of lap traffic, finding his way off the road in the middle part of the lap. In response to that, of course, he's just gone and set the fastest first sector of the lap. Yeah, thank you, Bagsy. It's funny, isn't it?
This won't stand. I have to offset this and set the fastest lap of the race. Let's see what his second sector time is.
I have to set the average lap time that I've been doing all race long, and goes a second sector split. It's actually a PB through second sector, so 47.364. Actually, sorry, I lie because he has set a purple middle sector on the lap that he did that was the fastest. So it's a second best sector for him. It's just a green sector, and we're actually watching him to the line now. So good shot on high for a very brief moment, and not that far away. Not that far away. So on he goes to start lap 49, and still this race continues to rage on. Now, Turmo is actually going to be unlapped by a lap car here. So Taipan's actually the next man in the queue. And
this is very interesting because, sorry to cut over the top of you there, Nether. So Taipan is the one that Greg Tara is chasing, but Lewis Wedding is chasing Turmo. So we've got these two little groups of cars chasing each other. So they're all working together in a little bit of symbiosis here in order to try and get away from the cars chasing them or to catch up to the guys ahead. It's interesting how this has worked out in this instance.
Well, we're going to go back and have a look at where Greg Tara is in all of this. So I put Greg Tara up on the bottom screen there. Something's just gone a little bit strange there with the picture-in-picture. We couldn't quite work that one out. But Greg Tara is to the line now, and the car that he's chasing is just going through the centre S at the moment. So back to, see if we can grab Taipan up here. So here he is on your television picture. And then we go to the onboard shot there. There's Greg Tara. There he is in the background. So not that far away. So it's about 2/3 the length of the Red Aeroposter at the moment. So Tara is catching and dragging Lewis Wedding along with him. So this is going to be a real interesting sort of a street fight between Turmo and Wedding and Taipan and Tara for this little last couple of spots that they're going after here.
And both of these positions are good for Greg Tara's championship. If he passes Taipan, he gets more points. Wedding passes Turmo, Turmo gets less points. So this is exactly what Greg wants as we head into the latter stages of this race. Just another aside, by the way, Damon Wood's another purple first sector. He's not letting up the pace even just a little bit. On the other hand, Noah Toro has sort of broken the elastic now to Steve Bolger. That gap for second place, almost 3 seconds as they come to the line to finish lap 49.
Yeah, he's rocked away at the moment, hasn't he? We've seen this, Bagsy, so we've seen the maiden podium for Noah Taro. He got the 3rd place finish at Estoril, so it was Tara's 1 and 3 on the podium. They were separated by Lime Mitch's Bentley, AAR Bentley, and he's now gone on track to go 1 better than his best result in ASR. But not still the top step yet, but I guess 1 step at a time. And he'll be very happy, I think, if Bagsy with a 2nd place finish, if he can hold it together for these last 11 minutes or so.
He's done really well tonight, as there goes Damon Woods with the fastest lap. He's almost into the 130s, not quite, but that was still very, very fast. He still wants to try and lap the whole field, even though that's probably not going to happen. He's doing his best. I reckon he's going to get 7th place, Brendan Ross, and that'll probably be it, but it's still a very impressive effort. Yeah, it's more than a minute from Noah Tara to 1st place, but he should be very proud of the race he's run so far today. Ooh. He's outdone Bolger, so it's a very, very well done job, as Lewis Wedding is now very, very close to Turmo.
Yeah, I was about to say,
it's all happening at once.
That's all happening together at the single stage, and it's going to be complicated here because now Taipan's going to be getting blue flags because, of course, Turmo's dropped behind now. This Correct. Is very confusing.
It is, and he will be getting those blue flags, and then, of course, Lewis...
Oh, but look at the difference in drive. Sorry, now look at the difference in drive out of Junkao for Turmo and for Greg Taro. Taro's just going to breeze past him here, heading down the main straight.
And this is going to be interesting. So you're right, because once you've got the blue flags, you've got to be able to drive away from your opponent. And that's what Wedding would have been sitting behind Greg Tara and probably just telling him, yeah, look, don't worry about the blue flags. It's not going to get, nothing's going to happen. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. And
so for those following the confusing battle at home, Tara has unlapped himself from Turmo and is now trying to overtake Taipan, who is on the same lap as him. Wedding he's not lapped Tara, because he's now wanting to pass Turmo, who's on the same lap as him. And all this is going like, he's gone for it.
Big dive.
He's absolutely fired it in, and has, in the end, quite easily got past him. So that's for the position. That helps Greg Taro as well. Now all that's left to happen in all this is for Greg Taro to pass Taipan.
Well, one half of the premonition has come true, and the other one I don't think is too far away from happening if you're Greg Taro. So Greg just needs to pick the moment, and I think that moment is probably going to come either at John Sauer or it's going to come in turn 1. I think he's going to get himself close enough to make that move stick, and probably turn 1 I think is probably the optimal part of the circuit, as long as he gets a good run out of John Sauer, which is coming up at the bottom of the hill here. But Taipan's been pretty handy at the moment, and Greg's not close enough, I don't think, unless he gets a good drive out here. But Taipan, a little wiggle on the way in. Tara, good drive on the way out.
Perfect drive on the way out for Greg Taro, and he's going to sit right in the wheel tracks of that Lamborghini. No, he's not. He pulls straight to the inside, and he's going to make the move down the main straight, has the inside line, and is already ahead by the line to the tune. But Taipan with the big spontaneous dive. How's he pulled it up? He has it up.
What a pass. What a repass. Block pass by Taipan. I've seen that done before. I've done it before at that part of the circuit in a Porsche back in 2018 when it was Porsche Cup. And they're going to run side by side down the Renner Imposter, and he's going to make him go the long way. And this is fair and legal for position. And Tara has had to really earn that one. And
he hasn't got it yet.
He hasn't got it done yet.
Yeah, he went very wide through 4, so he had to give it away. Remember, guys, this is for 10th place. So they're fighting properly hard. Taipan just a little squirrely on the rear as they come to the infield section, but he's now going to lead that group, which features the cars in 5th and 6th place through
Lewis,
the middle sector.
Yeah, Lewis, like, hurry up here. I'm waiting to lap. That was the thing that I was going to say, is that the last part of this whole sequence after Tara passes Taipan is for Taipan to be lapped by Wedding and Termo, but it's not happened yet because Taipan is doing a sterling job of keeping Greg Tara behind him.
Oh, I can't get over that repass back into turn 1. That was, if you were watching the supercars over the weekend, that was Thomas Randall on Anton Di Pasquale sort of stuff down into
I'm going to say that's pass of the day for me.
Here we go. round 2.
Cold and unexpected.
Round 2. Oh, there's contact in the final corner!
Tara's put him around.
He has indeed. Dear. So that's a bit of an exclamation point on this one. So Taipan goes
Tara's
around.
Slowed down.
Yeah, he's giving that one back. I think he knows he's done wrong there. So that one is worthy of a replay on the Antara Resort Style Living replay.
I was watching that from onboard, and we got to see it from onboard.
Well, we're going to look at it from the Taipan point of view here because I'm just looking to see what happened. And yeah, there it is. Point of contact right there. Just too close.
I think
the draft
didn't get. Yeah, Taipan didn't get the drive Tara was expecting, and it's
draft too powerful as well. I think as well there, guys. So that's scuppered any chance for Greg Tara to make that pass cleanly there, and Taipan's lost a few front fairings out of that one. That's probably the most major incident I think we've seen so far tonight, which is saying something. There's been a couple of small indiscretions, but that's probably the biggest one of the lot, and good on Tara for getting the redress done as well. Probably will have a bit of a look at that, but that sort of compounds his night at the moment. Still a long way to go. A long way to go for these drivers in terms of lap count. They've got a fair bit of work still to do ahead of them. So Noah Tara has actually kicked away from Steve Bolger quite handsomely here. And while he has won a couple of races in Super 2 last year, he hasn't got the GT3 win, which is where he sort of started applying his trade. He glimpses, of course, back at Jerez 2019. He's got the third place finish this year. He's going to look on track for a second place as it stands right now. And be one more step on the rostrum to go after that. And I've just been keeping an eye, guys, on Tim Redmond, currently in 4th place, and whether or not he's making any inroads into Steve Bolger. Now, on the last lap, he didn't. But he has shown signs that he has got still a little bit more pace in hand, I think. But I think 6 seconds deficit is probably a little bit too much to overcome in these last 4.5 minutes or so.
Tara's going on Taipan again, and see if he can actually make it. He can't make it stick this time. Coming down the back straight, and just to add a little bit of spice.
Race leader's coming up to him.
Right, yeah, they're about to be lapped for a second time. This is not where Tara expected to be at this point in the race, I'm sure. But so be it. Taipan doing a very, very good job of making that Lamborghini very, very wide.
On board with the race leader at the moment, you can see he's closing in on the fast rate of knots. Greg gets out of the way pretty quickly.
This is tactical from Greg here, very much so. He knows that he can use this because he's almost on the. He could almost be on the pace of our race leader Damon Woods if things had gone slightly better. He's going to try and use him as a pick.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's probably what you're thinking about here. If you can stay with him, use him as a pick, provided he gets the move done at a spot where Greg's able to capitalise on it. But he's not able to stick under the rear wing of the Mercedes. So he's lost a lot of ground. So this avenue that you were just alluding to, Bags, he's gone out the window very quickly.
Unless Woods has to work hard to get past Taipan and ends up balking him, because that would bring Tara right into the mix. Taipan, he needs to be smart here. The smart thing to do is just
let
maybe relax off the throttle and let him go.
Well
so you're not compromised and you're not compromising the leader.
Yep, and there he goes, and that's happening now. So that's good. And through goes the race leader, and a couple of flashes of lights to say thank you very much. Well done. And that's been a highlight, I think, this race so far. The blue flag passing has been very, very good, so the drivers can all pat themselves on the back for a job well done in that regard. And the race leader continues on. Well, we go back to keep watching this battle, because this is just one of those little entertaining things, because right now, this spot for Greg Tara, believe it or not, is only worth an extra 2 points, but it's very critical, or it could be a very critical 2 points in the context of the championship, because Termo has fallen off the cliff here. He's down to 6th place, so for Termo that means 29 points overall. Steve Bolger in 3rd with 40 points for tonight's proceedings. So Bolger at this stage will lead the GT3 World Championship powered by Antara Resort Style Living coming out of this race this evening.
All right, Greg's close again. I think he'll have it here. He's not too close though. He's not going to accidentally send Taipan off.
No, turn
but
one's
he
where it's on.
should
And he goes to the
make the pass.
inside.
Gets in there early.
And stays very far over the inside. He's been learned the lesson the first
Oh,
time.
that's on again.
again!
It's not going to work this time,
buddy.
buddy.
He's gone too deep.
It's not going to work this time, but it's a bold effort
Yeah.
from Taipan, and that's some very good defense drive. If that worked again, I would have been absolutely singing his praises. But that was...
I think we could see his praises enough for the first time. That was incredible.
It was
and
that
still
late lunge.
pass of the day for me.
Yeah, it was a late lunge. I think that one. Maybe was that one was probably a little bit of a day late, $1 short, and had to bail out of it. Just a little bit too late on the brakes. But he's like, I did it once, I can do it again. And unfortunately, that time doing it again, the old play it again, Sam, it wasn't the same tune as it was a couple of laps ago. Still going to be 2 more laps in this one, gentlemen. So race leader is got a minute left on the clock, and he's working his 57th lap at the moment. So we're going to go max duration here that we predicted. We said somewhere between 56 and 59, depending on how everything worked out. And it is going to be the top end of town. So it will be 59 laps for tonight's race. So do the math there, guys. 4.3 kilometres. Or 4.309 kilometres rather, 59 laps. Do the math on how far these guys have travelled in 90 minutes plus 1 lap.
Too far.
Too far. It's too far for your hat. Too far for your
About 250, about 250 Ks, I think.
Yep, doing the math right now. It is 254. Correct.
Well done, Bagsy.
Well done. Good mental math from Bagsy there. 254.2 is the correct distance. And I think the top 3 very much settled at the moment. Actually, probably top 5 very much. So I've actually just noticed Termo has gone a lap down. He's gone a lap down to the race leader, and pretty much the positions as they are on track right now are very much settled. There isn't anybody that's going to gain or lose anything over the course of the next few minutes when as the session winds down. Clock has gone 0 through the middle of lap 58.
Actually, just as Brendan Ross did a 1:42 last lap, 9 seconds slower than Ujit Mishra. So I don't know if he's having to say
he looked slow. He looks really slow. He's gonna lose position to Mishra here.
Yeah, actually, what's happened there? And Higginson. He's 2 laps down. Well, it can't be fuel saving because he was the latest stopper of the lot. So if he's not put enough fuel in, or maybe he's got a puncture or an issue he's nursing or something there, because
he's stuck in 6th gear. He's staying in 6th gear. So I think he might have just underfueled it. Yeah.
Maybe he has underfueled it. Maybe that's a big strategy miscalculation there, because he was the last person on pit road out of all the second stoppers. He came in with about 23 minutes remaining, so he should have been able to make that really easily.
Our race leader has started the final lap as well.
He has indeed started the final lap, so that's a perplexing one for Brendan Ross in the Craft Bamboo Racing Porsche, but not a real... I was about to say, with a bit of touring of the grass there. Damon Woods is... where do we start, guys? Came into...
I think we have to start qualifying.
Yeah, start with qualifying. Well, pole not by very much. So Greg Turra, on the front row, Steve Bolger pushed him pretty much all the way there for pole position honours, but came into ASR a couple of weeks ago. First race was last night, put the thing on pole, won the opening Super 2 race. Races 2 and 3 didn't go according to plan, and then stuck his hand up and said, is there a GT3 race tomorrow night? This being last night. He said, yes, there is a GT3 race. Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind having a go at that. And has come in and done the old Leonard Grossel that Leonard Grossel did in a couple of series we saw him, and has smoked the field to the tune of 1 minute and change.
Brendan Ross had to come into the pits as well, by the way, and do a splash and dash. So it's not quite enough for Greg Takara to be able to take 9th, but he's lost a fair few positions there, unfortunately.
Checkered flag after 90 minutes and 59 laps and 254 kilometres of racing goes to the Scott Taylor Motorsport 8A in Damon Woods for a first up GT3 race win.
What an absolutely incredible performance. You can't really say too much more than that. He was in the 31s right until the very end. Just didn't break into the 1 minute 30s. That would have been something impressive if he'd managed that. Only 4 cars on the lead lap. We are watching 5 cars on the lead lap.
An interesting thing. Tim Redmond, he was
fourth. He was fourth. He's actually had a moment somewhere.
So he came into the pits for fuel.
No.
Oh no!
Right then, but it was otherwise. What would have happened? He would have had to slow down and let Woods go past him. But then Taro, because Taro had only just been lapped by him, Taro might have got past as well. Not Taro, sorry, Termo.
Yep.
And so by going into the pits, he crosses the start-finish line, which means that at that point, Termo can't get past him at all unless he managed to unlap himself, which he couldn't. So Tim Redmond just puts that extra bit of fuel in and manages to keep going and hold on to 5th. So a bit of heads-up driving there because he didn't quite manage his fuel right.
So Noah Taro with a deserving second. Steve Bolger third. So based on the point standings, we expect Steve Bolger to assume the championship lead. Lewis Wedding, that's probably one of the best results we've seen him in a very underpowered Porsche. So he's got home for 4th place at the end of it all. He was on track for 5th before Redmond gets home in 5th. So Redmond does stay on the lead lap. So he is the last car home on the lead lap in a field of 15, which I must say, by the way, gentlemen, every single car has finished this race, whether you are 4 laps down like Glenn Miles and Zach Brown, or whether you're on the lead lap like Damon Woods. Everybody has finished this race. So that's a fantastic effort from the field to all keep going. So Redmond home in 5th, last lead lap car. Termo in 6th place, so that strategy didn't quite work for him. What's going on here? Oh, there's actually... Oh, I reckon the race leaders run out of fuel here, gentlemen. There's
They're just Constantine. They're just having a.
There is no noise coming from his engine.
That's
perfectly timed by Damon Woods.
I thought for a minute this was going to be like a gunfight at the KO Corral because there's all sorts of weird things going on here. So Termo in 6th.
Oh, no,
there's all sorts of.
Ruined it all.
Yeah, Brendan Ross has ruined it. Good on you, Rossi. So Termo home in 6th. Urjit Mishra. So that's a good result for Mishra. Started 10th, finished in 7th place. Steve Warwick recovers to 8th after being involved in a couple of skirmishes. Brendan Ross home for 9th, and the last man in the 10. So Greg Tara does get the top 10 finish, but there's a fair bit of soul searching to be done there at that particular team. The grinning not winning. Well, for him it's grinning not winning, so I would like to think that he's got a nice smile on his dial after that one. Taipan, Higginson, Walsh, Brown and Miles are the last of the finishers and all the finishers that were in this race. So, as I said, really well done to all the drivers for getting home on the, or without binning it, basically. So everyone home quite comfortably and safely, which is good to see.
Yeah, very much so, and they've done quite a good job to keep it on the track, because this is a track that can be difficult, especially you get that middle sector. It can be very easy to just lose it and end up in the wall somewhere. We saw people making some interesting moves in turn 1 as well that could have ended up in the wall as well, but overall everyone raced quite well, and I believe we have our podium sitters here, so I'll hand over to Floody for the podium interviews.
Thank you very much, Bagsy. And we will start at the top. Damon Woods taking pole position with a stonking lap. And then you spent the rest of the race trying to replicate it. It was an astonishing performance from you, winning by 1 minute and 1 second. Just take us through how that feels in your debut in the GT3 machinery.
No, it feels pretty good. I think it was just mainly about just keeping consistent lap times the entire race. Just try to keep it within 3/10 every lap, and if I got caught with traffic, try to minimize the damage loss. But no, it was definitely a mental challenge having to focus for an hour and a half and still try and put in hard lap times every lap. But no, all in all, heaps of fun. Enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, I bet. Bagsy and I had a bit of chuckle mid-race when you came up to pass a lap car and ended up making a small mistake, which was, I think, your only lap outside of the 31s for the entire race. I believe it was a 33.7 or something along those lines. And
Yep.
then almost to atone for that, you went ahead and set in the purple first sector of the race following up. Just it was a lot of fun to watch you. Yeah, I just how did you do that? How does one do qualifying laps for 90 minutes straight?
I've got no clue. I just got the car dialed in the one day of practice that I had. Um, but yeah, no, I just drove to markers. That was pretty much it. Just found my markers around the track and just drove to that every lap.
And this is your debut in the ASR GT3 Championship. By all reports, you had a good night to start with in the Super 2 Super 2 round last night as well. Any plans for additional racing in this championship? Are you going to come through and blitz ASR like a storm?
That's the plan. Nah, I'll probably do I'll do the rest of the Super 2 seasons, and I'll do the rest of the GT3 season. I've got a couple mates as well, so I might drag them along, get them to have a drive, and yeah, see what happens.
Brilliant. Well, you've certainly made people pay attention tonight. So congratulations on a stellar result for you in your debut, Damon Woods.
Thank you.
Second place tonight, his second or third GT3 podium, if I do recall correctly, after Okayama last year as well. Noah Tara, Noah, congratulations! You and your father seem to have the cars dialed in very nicely for this track. Well done on taking second place.
Oh, thank you, Floody.
How was the race from your perspective?
Yeah, not too bad. I came in pretty open-minded, not expecting, anything special, and just, lapped. And it turns out I had some decent pace because I decided to set up the car for a long run this time, being in one of the longer races instead of one lap. And I think it paid off for me this time round.
It worked out very nicely. You had a great battle in the middle part of the race with Steve Bolger and Termo. Take us through some of the moves that were happening in that little fracas.
Yeah, it was sweating a bit during that. The Beamer just seems pretty decent for its size on the brakes, so I thought I would push it, but not too hard because it was very fast in a straight line and could stop itself pretty well. So I thought I would just follow behind them, and if I could go alongside them, just stick it in there, see what happens. I did mess up one time and had to cut the chicane to give back their place to Bolger, but just learning the limits.
And finding them very nicely. In the end, you took home second place, which is actually a pretty decent result, not just for you, but also for your teammate and father, Greg, taking a few points away from his championship rivals after he had a bad race. We noticed that both of you took your pit stops on the same lap on both occasions. What's communication like in the grinning not winning racing team at the moment?
Non-existent. The first time I overshot it, didn't see him in my mirror, and just backed straight into him. And then we both lost like, I don't know. He lost like 10 seconds. I lost like 6 seconds. So I had to catch that back up. And the second time he ran out of fuel behind me, so he had to get pushed into the pit box. So I'm just lucky I managed to fuel save in that middle stint. Otherwise, I don't think I would have made it.
You did very well to fuel save enough and to take home a second place. Congratulations, Noah Taro.
Thank you.
And final step on the rostrum was last year's GT3 World Series champion, Steve Bolger. Steve, great race from you in the end, just not able to keep up with the BMW or the Mercedes of Damon Woods. Take us through the race from your perspective, because you had decent pace throughout a lot of the running.
Yeah, Damon was just on another level, so well done to him. And Noah was surprising consistent pace at the end, so really great drive. The boys done well. Yeah, I had to fuel save the first two stints quite a bit, so I was just driving to a fuel number. So it was a bit depressing watching the Turmo and Noah drive up to the back of me pretty easy. And I was just trying to tuck into a slipstream there, but I had the good about a 4 second gap on Noah after the last stop, and he ended up 5 or 6 seconds in front of me, so he just blitzed it, mate.
Yeah, we noticed that you ran a lot longer in the first stint, and then that came back to you as the race progressed. Did you just not have the tires underneath you to fight through the last part of the race, or was just Noah's runs out of the slower corners just a little too much for you to sort of control?
I had to set up a little bit lower downforce than I would have liked just to make it on fuel. And then I had good pace in the medium speed corners, like third and fourth gear. So through the center S, always got a good run. But any of the point and shoot type corners, and there's quite a few of them in the straight,
Yeah.
no, it just blitzed it.
Yeah, unfortunate, but we've seen the Ferrari have pace at other parts of the season. If our maths is correct, and it very well might not be, but our numbers suggest that you are the current championship leader now after Greg had a bit of a shocker. With that information in mind, looking ahead to the latter half of the season, does that change your mentality going into the Nürburgring, or is it still just full gas every single race?
Full gas. I think there's races there that are just no hope. Like the BOP is okay. The cars are even at different lengths and different tracks. So, I think there's some circuits, Monza. I don't think the Porsches or pretty much any car, but the front cars, I got a chance. But the other tracks, Nürburgring, I like. So that one should be a good one.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on your third place and congratulations on taking the lead of the championship.
Thank you.
And guys, something to note there that Steve's just reminded me of, the cars with the proper pace tonight, the Mercedes, the Bentleys, the BMWs, all the front engine rear wheel drive cars. So seems that pace was, front straight line pace was the rhythm of the night, so to speak. And it proved to be the rhythm for Damon Woods.
Definitely. I do agree. The front wheel drive car had the advantage tonight. And at the beginning of the night, I even said some of the cars like the Bentleys probably would have a pretty decent turn of pace if the drivers could use it. For people like Ujit Mishra and Steve Warwick, they got caught up in a couple of incidents. It didn't fall their way, but it was the other car that is in that group, the Mercedes AMG Power, that did get the job done at the end of the day. Coming back to the point standings, and I can confirm Steve Bolger is the new leader in the championship, but not by much. This has completely turned the GT3 World Championship on its head, and Steve Bolger now leads a tied Curtis Egmanis or Termo and Noah Turra by 5 points. Those two are tied, but it does go to Termo currently on a countback by virtue of the fact he does have a sprint format race win. And then Greg Turra has fallen to fourth. He is 2 points behind the tied Termo and Noah Turra. So you've got 7 points separating the top 4 positions in the GT3 World Championship leaving Interlagos tonight.
And that means that those moves at the end of the race for on Termo and on Taipan were very, very important in maintaining Greg Turra's presence at the head of the field. So those two moves at the very late stages of the race are really changing the championship shape at the end of the race.
Correct. Bagsy.
Really, more importantly, Greg Turra needs to go get the biggest gift basket he can find and send it to Ujrit Mishra, because otherwise he'd be scoring 0 points and would be a lot further, not out of contention, but he'd have a much bigger mountain to climb if not for Mishra giving him that little shove to his pit box. So if you're listening in, Greg, I send a nice big gift basket to Ujrit, or if it's too far to send it, just send it to me instead.
Well, I think it is going to be a bit too far to send it to Uj, because he's going to have to send it all the way to India, whereas if you had to send it to you, he's got to send it from Adelaide to Perth, so I don't think it's too big a drama. But Flood, we look ahead. 2 weeks from now, one of the shortest gaps between GT3 World Series events, we are off, as Steve Bolger mentioned, to the Nürburgring.
Yes, and this is an absolute classic of a GT circuit. Not only the GP layout, which is used for things like SRO GT World Challenge and the variety of local national series around Germany, but also, of course, the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring Langstrecke series, and the ADAC 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, which only actually ran 2 or 3 weeks ago. Phoenix Racing, Manti Racing. One of the Porsches ended up winning that race. It was a cracking race, unfortunately affected by weather, and that might be, well, I mean, in the real world, it would be a factor to look at, but certainly less so in sim racing. But a great combination of flowing corners, some sharp hairpins, some things you've really got to struggle to get your head around, and of course the back section diving down the hill, the kink back up the hill into the chicane. Really great passing opportunity. I think the cars that are going to be the best balanced, so the mid-engine cars are going to be the ones that are going to be strongest here, but certainly don't count out the Porsches, and of course don't count out anything in this series, because every car's got a decent chance around a track like the Nürburgring.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And then Bagsy from the Nürburgring. It's a double header in July, actually. So in the 10th of July, we have got the Nürburgring event, but then on the 31st, last day of July, first of the only time that, sorry, a lie there. Second time this year where we've got 2 GT3 races in the 1 month. After that, another one that has some Formula One and some endurance racing heritage, and that's Imola.
Yeah, it's going to be a very good month of July for people wanting their endurance racing fix here at ASR. So definitely tune in for that. And a series that is currently balanced on iFetch, 4 people going into it. We're not quite at the halfway point of the series. After the Nürburgring, we will be. And it's going to be very interesting to see how things go, who remains consistent and where things go, because we've seen, especially depending on the format of the round, can really depend on how people go with these points, and a big haul of points here for those people who managed to get the podium.
Well, the Nürburgring is the 70-minute shorter enduro format. The Imola round at the end of July is the longer distance 90-minute format. So a little bit of a mix. We stay with the pit stop type format for a couple more weeks before we return to sprint race format at Magny-Cours in a double header in France at the mid part of August. So until next time, we'll actually see you here on this channel for Supercars on Friday night coming from the top end Hidden Valley Raceway, and then the next time you see us, it will be for round 5 of this GT3 World Championship powered by Antara Resort Style Living from the Nürburgring. See you next time, everybody. Bye for now.